Whenever we're recording, we're doing, so there's two trustees that are trying to zoom in, apparently. I sent them the emails that come on the website. Yes, it is being recorded, so we're 3 minutes in. If I can, do you expect that trustee Geisen?
I think trustee Geis said that she's on her way, and I texted trustee McGovern that you are sending the link and that it's on the website. So she liked it. I think we're fine.
Okay, so if we'd like to start the meeting, that'd be great. Thank you very much. And we'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Super. And then okay, then we'll start with public comment. We'll start with the in-person public comment. So we usually going around in a circle, but we'll just if you have anything.
Okay, I do very quickly. I've been around and I'm a veteran of what was known as the movement. It was back in the 60s. Spent time in here in Mississippi in 1964 and have been active most of my life in New York with the Democrats, here heavily in Joliet. None of this is important to you except for this. What the hell are we going to become as a nation when I see extraordinary hostility that I see every day, politically, socially, and God knows violently in this country? All I'm hoping for is this, that we can sit here as a group of people who care about the township, care about this country, and work together to make life better for our township residents, rather than becoming a bunch of screaming people and a family feud. Doesn't make any sense. I think we have to really make every possible attempt to work together to make things better. And that's just it. Thank you. Here.
I'm okay, and then Smith. Smith.
My name is Ms. Hoopman. So I've been here several times talking about the $164,000 cut to the payroll. Okay, now it's my understanding that we went and you guys decided to buy a building, and I don't know where that stands, but I plan to see you all in the town hall on the 21st. I hope everybody in this room goes to the town hall on the 21st and actually has their voice heard in regards to that purchase, because it's a really irresponsible purchase in my opinion. My main concern about this board is, after sitting in this board multiple times, one of the things that I've noticed is that adults, when people are speaking, you don't interrupt each other. One another. You're supposed to all be colleagues, right? Elected by people like myself to represent people like myself, to do the best and be stewards of our government and our township. And what I have seen, especially Ms. Geist, who doesn't want to bother to look at me, and Ms. Howowitz, is a constant interruption of one another, so that we actually don't always get the information on the question being asked of the specific person at the time. Okay, so number one, Robert's Rules of Order is a thing that almost every government body that I lobby follows. Let's try to follow that, number one. Number two, when we go into executive session, what I like to call the secret meetings, you have a specific topic that you're supposed to be talking about, okay? That means you're supposed to speak to that topic. You're not supposed to talk about other topics, like perhaps the person who came and spoke to you that day, or somebody who was talking about a payroll cut, when you're supposed to be talking specifically about personnel. There is such a thing called the Open Meetings Act. And when you go into executive session and you go off topic and you interrupt people, Ms. Geist, and you ask questions that are not of that topic, you are violating the Open Meetings Act. And I shouldn't have to educate those on the board what the rules of Robert's Rules of Order mean and what the Open Meetings Act means. And I shouldn't have to educate the people that I elect to represent me. So what I would like to see over the next year that I come to these meetings is for you to stop interrupting people. Stop asking the same question 7 different ways, expect a different answer that you're not gonna get. Stop planning these sideways attacks in a triangular way on someone. I wanna see honest questions. I wanna see that person given a chance to answer. And I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, male, female, I don't care. I wanna see the same respect that I raise my children to behave as. When people are speaking, you don't interrupt them. Trustee Geist, constantly, because these meetings go on for lengths of time that are absolutely unreasonable. And the reason being is because of the constant interruption, that we cannot follow the simple Robert's Rules of Order. And in response to the meeting,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Howowitz,
Thank
you can easily do it without interruption.
Thank you. Mr. Zbenko? If you have anything-
Well, I like the first gentleman's comments and the high tension that was brought here. I don't think is very productive.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Baker.
Yeah, I am John Brubaker and I'm perhaps a little more dated than Harry. Any board member who tries to pass off support for the purchase of a building inappropriate township services as being a good thing for the people of the township has earned no confidence. Any board member who supports the purchase of a building that is likely unavailable for any expanded township use for up to 9 years, and then only at great retrofit cost, has earned no confidence. Any board member who argues, as you did last Wednesday, that voting to buy the building in question expands services, while at the same time you voted to cut funding for vital staff and programs, deserves no confidence. Township assessor who expresses more allegiance to the seller of the building than to the township voters. An assessor who feels sorry for the seller because they may not have a sale, when it is not at all clear the sale is in the interest of the citizens of Lisle Township. Well, he deserves no confidence. But beyond earning no confidence, any board that would agree to purchase such a building while having no vision and having yet presented no detailed plan for its use or what it will cost to properly maintain, or that has failed to indicate how it helps improve services in the township, has a lot of explaining to do about exactly why they seek to waste taxpayers' dollars.
Thank you, sir. The gentleman in the back. Okay, and I think you may have submitted an online one as well.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it or not, but
Okay,
just, I followed up on my comments last week and interested to see what item 4 is all about today.
thank you. Okay, and then Mr. Galloway, or, you know, I almost missed the whole row too. Mr. Spiegelman. Okay, Mr. Yamanaka. And Mr. Galloway.
I heard some of what was said and that's sufficient.
And then any other public comments in person? And online, we just had the one public comment from Mr. Kraus. Did you want?
Do you want me to read
No,
it, or you're good?
It's covered.
Is there anybody else online?
And there's nobody online except for Mr. Douglas. And Ms. McGovern, would you have any? Trustee McGovern?
Yes. Yes.
Comments? I'm just trying to make sure that public comment has been taken care of.
I have no public comment.
Thank you, trustee McGovern. Okay, then, public comment is done, and moving on to the fourth thing on the agenda, vote of no confidence from the trustees.
I'm going to make a motion to table that to the next official board meeting. Thank you.
I'll second. Okay, thank you, trustee Geis and trustee Page. Any other discussion? And a roll call vote, please, for Alex.
Trustee Geis.
Yes.
Trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes,
Trustee Robinson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Abstaining. Okay, then moving on to the thing on the agenda, which is the NIU needs study so discussion. And I know Mel is, or sorry, Vivian is
The whole
ready
crew's
to
here.
go. He's ready to go.
Yeah. All right, you ready? We'll kind of kick it off and we're gonna go from there. Well, I want to start by saying thank you for everybody for being here. You know, it takes a lot to show up, you know, as a citizen, as a resident, as someone in the township to come and speak your mind and to, you know, to be here and do that. So we appreciate you, you know, being here, and we're ready to share some of the input as well. But let me just say a little bit about myself. Some of you know me through kind of interviews that we've done or other items, as well as my colleagues, but I'm Mel Henriksen. I'm the assistant director at the NIU Center for Governmental Studies. Anybody heard of the Center for Governmental Studies? No? Well, we've been around for 53 years, and the center has been doing a lot of work in the region, in the state, across the country, as well as internationally in the work that we do. And the center specifically does a lot with strategic planning, like we're doing today with the group, trying to do exactly what you're saying, plan for the future, think about things, set aside some time to really have a hopefully a good productive discussion. We also do organizational studies. Mindy's going to do some survey research and come in and tell you about the community needs assessment that was done. And we do everything from association management to teaching, team building, anything like that that you can think of. So I like to say, if you need it, come to NIU, we'll figure out how to help you out. So been around for 53 years. I hail from Iowa, another great state, but I've been here 16 years. So I think I'm an import now to the great state of Illinois, and been at NIU for all 16 of those years. So I'm very excited to be here tonight to hopefully help have this discussion and talk through some of the visioning for the future, working together to achieve some of these goals. So let me just let Allie introduce herself, and then we're going to do a little bit of introductions here, and then we'll get to Mindy's part here in just a minute.
Hi, I'll be really brief. My name is Allie Holding. I'm a research specialist at the center. I've been there since officially full-time since 2021, but I've been a graduate assistant there before that while I was going through NIU's Master's of Public Administration program, which was great and amazing. And then now I get to work with some of my professors, and Mel even taught a class that I sat in on while I was going through the program. So it's very full circle for me. I wear a couple different hats at the center. I'm the executive director of the Illinois Local Government Lawyers Association. So like Mel mentioned, with the association's management team, I work with them, and Mel with strategic management and planning.
Absolutely. And I'll let Dr. Schneiderman introduce herself when she does the community needs assessment here in just a few minutes. Today, and for the next few hours, as we work through the needs assessment and share with you some of the other input we've heard from some of your partners, we're going to be taking some notes up here. So you might see us up here writing, and the crowd will get to see a little bit of it too. I'd like to tease, there's no spell check, so be a little kind to us as we write up here on these boards to capture some of the thoughts throughout the day. But if there's something that you want us to capture, you didn't quite hear, let us know, and we'll make sure that we get it up there. So if you don't mind, you know, we talk a little bit about strategic planning. How many of you have been a part of a strategic plan, either on this board or through something else? Okay, so you know a lot of the different kind of components and pieces of it. So I'll just tell you what, for us, what the most important two pieces are, I think. And one is looking towards the future. That's the only place we're going. We can't change really what's kind of happening now. And so today, as we're working through some of these, I really want you to think about the future and envisioning for that, and what you see as a collective group. We know you're going to bring your individual perspectives. We know we're going to hear some of that today too. And that's okay as well. And the second piece is hearing from the stakeholders. When Mindy comes in, that's something that we do that might be different than some of the other plans you've been a part of. We want to hear what the community is saying. We talk to your intergovernmental partners, had some really great input there. So kind of hearing what kind of a good partner you are, or how you can improve, which is great too. So those are kind of two of the most important pieces that we're going to talk about today. So I put this up here. You know, we work at a university, we have to put up diagrams and show you kind of how we do things here. Again, I just want you to see one of the most important pieces of this is that it's it's never ending. This isn't something you do once. You know, we know that the election cycle and things like that do create a lot of constant change in organizations, and in Illinois, we have a lot of governmental bodies. So it's important to know that things will be cyclical. It's important to have a vision and be flexible, but that reviewing these, taking a look at your goals, hearing from stakeholders is also a really important part of the whole model of planning. Whether you have us doing it or you have someone else doing it, is constantly looking at yourself and kind of seeing what you can do different and better. So just a quick agenda. This is in front of you. This isn't the agenda for your entire meeting, obviously, of things you were doing kind of previously. This is just what we kind of planned today, is we want to do some quick introductions around the group. We know most of you, but some of you we haven't had a chance to talk with. We're going to talk about the stakeholder input. We want to make sure the group here has a chance to hear that before they either head out or stay, whatever they need to do. Talk a little bit about visioning for the future, then do a little bit of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. And the great part of having the whole group together is I'm guessing what one of you think is a strength and other might think is a weakness, right? So we're going to have that discussion and really kind of talk that through a little bit. And ultimately today, the last thing we hope to get through with the group is to talk about some of the short-term and long-term goals. And some of you might be saying, well, long-term is always hard to do on a board, but you're there for, 2 years, 4 years, whatever it is. So we're going to keep that in mind. The short-term might be a little shortened and the long term as well. But we really want to hear about what's that legacy you want to leave? What's that going to look like? So that's our plan for today. So if you don't mind, if we just go around kind of the horn here, we shared a little bit about ourselves. If you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the position or on the board? Maybe is this your first board, or is this something you've kind of been doing? You like to be a part of either the community or elected officials, things like that. And then if you want to just use your name, this is just kind of a fun, interesting thing to get you thinking. We want you to think of a word or phrase to describe the township services. So the services that you provide or the community that you work with and are here for, right? Just using something in your name to share with us what that means to you. It can be your first or last name, whatever's easier. We sometimes have people who have a Z last name, and that's not the easiest one to come up with, right? So we let you pick. So just a little bit about yourself, answer those kind of questions, and then share with us, how would you describe the community you serve, the township, the services in a word or phrase? I'll think about it for a second. If we have a volunteer to go first, I'll get out of Allie's way and let her take a few notes here. I don't want to have to put on my teacher hat, right, and pick someone to go first. I like to volunteer.
Well, I'll go first. It feels like I'm Psych 101 again. I had a clinical practice for 40 years and retired recently. And it's for everybody.
We were just gonna kind of go through to do the board at this point.
Oh, the board.
Sorry, I'm sorry. No,
You got.
I know,
Yeah.
I should have.
Dude, you're.
The first break, I want to hear about this
Be
practice. you had.
specific on what board, right?
I apologize. Yeah, this one's kind of directed more towards the board, but thank you for volunteering.
I can go first. Christy McGovern.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy McGovern. This is not my first board, but what I would like to identify with focus on within this board is, to go along with Christy, is compassion. I think this is a very unique government experience in that there's the budget, there's the math, but it involves a lot of heart and compassion. So I think we need to approach our clientele with compassion, care, concern, and confidence. All the C's.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Good
say that's
job.
really good to get them all in there. Care and concern. I like that. Thank you for going first. Second, technically, we appreciate it. We'll just go around the room if that's okay. Kind of keep it going. Debbie, reserved for Debbie.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Debbie Polowitz. I'm the clerk. I've been in this position 2 years have we been in. So I have been I'm kind of a chronic volunteer. So I am on the board for the Lyle Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board for the Lyle Education Foundation. I'm the president on the board of the Main Street Organization of Realtors. I'm on the Illinois Association of Realtors board. I'm on the National Association of Realtors board. And I'm involved in a lot of community events as well. So with that, my phrases, the first thing that came with the D is was dinner because of the food pantry. So that's not perfect, but that's what came to mind. And I thought of passion. I know she said compassion, but I was thinking of passion for my last name, as well as prioritizing needs.
Okay, that's good. So food pantry is a really important part of what you do, and you're ready to prioritize and think about what the township needs.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing. Jean.
I'm Jean Page. I'm trustee, first time on a board. I'm here for 2 years on this board, and this is 2 years altogether in local elected government. I am not clever, so I'm actually quite jealous of people who are clever, so I'm not good at coming up with fun things on the spot. My focus has been since the beginning on the needs of our community. We are serving people who come to us when they're really in need. As Trustee McCovern just said, the compassion is huge for the people that we serve here. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Thank you.
Barry Robinson, longtime neighbor, Lyle Township resident. I've been appointed to the board in December, so I'm fairly new to this group and this role. First time in government. From a board point of view, I've been involved in volunteer boards, Boy Scouts, I was Scout leader for many years. Naperville North High School Booster Board, president for many years. Professionally, I've worked in a lot of partnerships, professional services firms, and I ran partnership boards, particularly around governance. I guess the only thing I can think of is my middle name is Robert. So Robert's Rules. I feel like I'm bringing some structure. I'm trying to bring structure and I think competency to the board, whether it be in the area of budgeting, planning. So those are the things I bring.
Sure. So I live by Oregon, Illinois. There used to be a big Boy Scout camp out there that people would come to from far and wide to use. They don't anymore, but that's a really neat place. Yeah.
And I've been all over the state of
All right.
Illinois, Wisconsin, and other places too.
Awesome. Thank you, Barry. Christy. Oh, no, sorry. It's okay.
No,
I saw one the other way.
Hello, I'm trustee Autumn Weiss, and I have been in my position for 2 years. I am the senior trustee. And I have sat on, oh my goodness, so many boards for the last 28 years in this community. So I'm very well versed in not just understanding needs, but really being cognizant of strategy.
Mhm.
And so I have been president of Home and School, vice president of Home and School, vice president of Boosters. I was an original founder of the Lyle Character Counts Coalition, and thus forming the Lyle Teens with Character. I have sat on NCO Youth and Family Services Board, I have sat on Teen Parent Connection and mentored teen parents. So I have had my share of service in and around the community. So this to me is an extension of all the things that I've done over the years, sort of packaged into one space. As far as the initials, I'm really struggling with the G, I'll be honest with you. But Autumn, accessibility. So I think that, it's interesting to me as we've gone through these last 2 years, how much more interest there is in what we do. And I think that that's important, but more important is the accessibility of the services within the community. So that's the A. And then G, I just think the gratitude we have to be in a position to help people in their most vulnerable times. One of the most important messages in my campaign and even in the slate that I ran with was that your community is only as strong as your weakest members. So if people are hungry, the community is hungry. If people are underemployed, don't have proper housing, don't have their basic needs met, none of us are winning, right? So I guess that's what I would say. That's all I got for you.
No, that's good. And don't feel bad about the word thing. It's a challenge
It's a
here. We
tough
all
one.
go through it, I know. Get you working right away.
Mm.
Thank you very much, Trustee.
My name is John Trowbridge. I'm the township assessor. I've been the township assessor here for 29 years. Before that, I've been involved in other local offices for 37 years. I've actually had volunteer is in the 40s and that. The only thing I can think of is my middle name, D, and I'm devoted to my customers.
Good. I should have said middle name. I don't know why I don't put that in there. That makes sense, but give that option. Thank you.
My name is Ed Young. I'm the Highway Commissioner. I've been Highway Commissioner for 6.5 years. I've been involved in local elected offices since 1990. So, commission, one sort of another. For the two words, I can't think of anything with E or Y. Y is a tough one. Right? Ernest, I thought Ernest, but how about hard work and honesty?
Hard work and honesty. Diane, are you last but not least of the group here?
Indeed, so Diane Hewitt, I'm the supervisor. I've been focused on community groups and boards for the last 7 years. And in this position for the last 2 as well as okay, then I'd say discipline and direction. I'm pretty self-disciplined and I think really only through discipline can you really achieve liberation. Direction is always needed in order to decide where you're going. And so it's always important to have the right direction. My name is Christina. I'm a very caring person. My last name is Hewitt. So there's a lot of more H's for me. I'm a herder of animals of all sorts. I'm humble, helpful, and a hard worker.
You got all 3 names in there, overachieving over here. Well, thank you for introducing yourself and just saying a little bit about you. You know, we sometimes call this the describe to a stranger question too, right? Is how would you describe the organization and what does that look like to you? So it's a little bit of both, but it gives us an idea, sets a stage for kind of what the rest of the afternoon will be like for you. So we appreciate the introductions, and I don't want to keep everybody waiting any longer. I know Dr. Schneiderman is excited to share with you a little bit about the survey. My little guy isn't coming to work now, but that's okay. I'll just, there we go. So Dr. Minnie Schneiderman is going to come on in. She's going to talk about this sort of next, 20 minutes, half hour. She's going to be talking with the group is about the stakeholder input. So before we ask you to have a vision, before we ask you to talk about goals, we want to share with you what the community is saying. So you have that kind of all within your context as we move forward with the rest of the afternoon. So I'm going to hand over the clicker and I'm going to step out of the way so I'm not in the way, and we will let her get started. I will do a little handout. This is the executive summary she's going to be sharing. We've also shared it with those in the audience.
Great,
Thanks. I can get it going.
There's a stack of them in front of Ed.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I got you.
Oh. Is it the same?
Thank you.
Oh, please. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. No problem.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. And I always find that people are very interested in this part of the strategic planning process, but you get to hear how the residents feel about your services you provide and what they want in the future. So I'm going to move quickly through the methodology and then get right to the results because I know that's what you all want to hear. The purpose of the study of the survey was to determine residents' opinions of Lisle Township government provided services and the areas the township should focus their attention on in the future. The center worked, governmental studies worked closely with the Lisle Township staff throughout the project, especially during the survey design. We collaborated back and forth until we got a survey that everybody was happy with. And that I felt was not biased and not leading, and we fed the information that the township needed.
Not sure why that just happens.
We lost.
I think it's.
I think keep those. Is it working right now?
Just,
Here, I'll fix right away.
Yeah, we're.
Get that. Okay, so.
It's all kind of.
The questionnaire that was designed covered the following topics: awareness of services provided by the township, opinions of the services provided by the township, current needs of residents, and communication about the township. A random sample of households in Lisle Township was provided by a firm called the Rockwell Systems Group. They are located in Pennsylvania. Which my New York accent just came out.
It did pretty bad.
It happens when I'm tired. Sorry. Pennsylvania, and they are what's called a survey sampling firm, which means that their main focus is providing lists for surveys. They have a lot of information. They have everyone in the US. You'd be surprised how what they know about you, and what kind of information can be purchased. Okay, the sample included names, family addresses, and email addresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
It was completely random.
It was completely random.
Please. Like an age.
No, so
Gender.
it was representative of the population of Lisle Township. Data collection, there's actually an error in here and the executive summary. The methodology was slightly different than what's presented. Sorry about that. I didn't catch this. An email invitation was sent to participants. So everyone that we had an email address for that the walking systems would provide an email address for, got an email invitation with a link to the survey. Okay, now I would say about 80% of the sample, which was about 2,000 households in Lisle Township, had email addresses. We then have a proprietary software which we use to search for email addresses that we don't have or weren't provided. So we got another probably 10% that way. Those that didn't get didn't have an email were sent a mail survey, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So we sent up to 7 email reminders to those people until they complete the survey. We don't want to hassle people, but sometimes it takes that many emails to get somebody to respond because they're on vacation, they're busy with their lives. So we still get people responding by the 7th email. We then mailed to this office room. We mailed the survey to those households that did not complete the survey online, and those that didn't have any interest for. So everyone got the hard copy survey that didn't respond, and then a telephone reminder call was made after the mail survey to those that didn't respond online or mail. This just increases our response rate and gives us a more representative group of respondents by doing 3 different ways of contacting people. Everyone has their preferred method to complete the survey. Some like doing it online, some prefer mail, some prefer telephone. Meaning when they were called, there was a reminder call, so we gave them their password and the online link again, or we would mail the mail survey again if they wanted it. But there were people that said, I have trouble seeing. Can you read the questions to me online? My staff were trained to read those questions and take the responses down at that point. And we did have a handful of people that responded that way. So we try to be accommodating and get as many people to complete. We got 597 completed surveys, and that's about a plus or minus 4 percentage point margin of error. So when you read a poll in the newspaper, it always says plus or minus 3% for a national survey. For local surveys, we go for plus or minus 4%. And we did get that. The data was weighted, so we had the American Community Survey 5-year estimates from 2021. We use those to look at the demographics of the population in the township. And then we look at the survey respondents and we weight the data to adjust the survey respondents to look like your population on key demographics. And we use gender, age, race, ethnicity, and annual household income. So you can then take these survey responses and generalize to the total population.
So you knew the age, sex, income, rate of all the people answered?
We asked them, it was questions on the survey. We asked at the end of the survey a bunch of demographics.
And if I couldn't fill that out, what did you do?
You didn't fill that part out. There's a software that we use. I don't want to get too complicated, and we use that to weight the data. It does a statistical procedure that will assign based on the other responses, values to you, basically. So anyone that was missing values, those values were imputed, what's called imputed statistically. If they didn't complete, give race. So it's a statistical procedure. Okay, so here's the results. Okay, I've been doing this for over 30 years. And so I sometimes have trouble bringing it down to a level that people will understand. So if you don't understand the process, I can try to explain it better, the methodology. But it's not magic. It's not like, this is proven scientific methodology. Okay, so first question we asked is if the resident was looking for general or emergency assistance, and we defined that, who would they contact? And they were given a range of different choices. The highest percentage was family and friends. Family or friend. Next was they would do an internet search, much lower, 9%. Lisle Township was at 8.2%. Community agency organization 5.5, DuPage County 4.4, Health and Social Service Agency 4.3, and it goes down from that. 19.2% were unsure who to contact. And we then asked if they didn't say they would contact Lisle Township, we asked them, well, why not? Okay, the two top responses were they weren't aware that the township provides general emergency assistance. And this is not unusual. We've done this type of survey for other townships, and we get that answer as the top response all the time. It was about the same percentage actually of what we've gotten in other townships. So awareness is always an issue. And we'll talk about communication in a bit, but yeah, awareness is always an issue. And then more comfortable contacting family or a friend, which makes sense. You go to your family, you go to your friends first, before you go outside that assistance. Okay, awareness of township services. The food pantry, you have 46% saying they're aware. Now remember, this is all residents, so they're not specifically people that would actually use the pantry. They might provide food possibly, but this is all, this is the whole Lisle Township population. That one, 40.6%. Right to page, 25.5% aware. Live 19.3. Referral to a health and social service agency, 18.5, passport services, 17.5, and it goes down from there. The lowest being the tutoring program, which is at 6.7. And you have to realize tutoring program would only be for people that have children within the ages that the program provides services to. So that's why it's lower than some of the others. We then asked about the quality of services for different services. It was a rating. It was excellent, good, fair, or poor. The blue and red, so the blue is excellent, the red is good. The fair and poor are the green and purple. And you have high satisfaction. If I usually combine the excellent and good, you have high satisfaction for most of the services except the property tax assessment counseling. And that's lower. But that's an area that people are usually upset about, is their property taxes, so it might be due to that. But we then got into the section about needs. And we saw that section off with an open-ended question, which basically asks, what's the single greatest challenge or need experienced in the past 2 years? these are the top ones that came out, financial, cost of food, utilities, and housing. High property taxes, we hear that in every local government survey we do, this is not unusual. COVID-19 related, we asked in the past 2 years, so it was still the end of kind of COVID. Unemployment came up quite a bit, mental health issues, and these are categorized. And we take the open ends, we read through them, and we come up with categories, and then we code each of the responses, so we know which of the topics. And then the cleanup after the tornado, which kind of threw me for a minute, and then I realized that was last 2020.
2 years ago.
21, yeah. Then asked about specific services, we gave them basically a laundry list, and they had to say whether there was someone in their household that needed the following services. The help with yard work for a senior or disabled individual for the general population, if you look at all residents that responded, was lower. But then I said, well, maybe I should just look at it for those that are 65 plus, because that's what we're asking about. So then it came up as being the highest, 38.6%. Help with household repairs for a senior or disabled individual, 37.1% for respondents 65 plus. Then assistance finding affordable dental care, 36.6%, and that's all respondents. Assistance with finding affordable healthcare, 28.3%, again, all respondents. Help finding mental health treatment, 25.8%, all respondents. Oh, here's where I looked at it, actually, the finding tutoring services. It's 28.7% of those with children have a need for finding tutoring services, which I believe you provide, right? They're just probably not aware. Property tax assistance for they can stay in their home, 28.3%, and we asked some specific questions about that, which I'll go over in a minute. Finding childcare, those with children, 23.4%. Rent mortgage assistance, 22.6%. Having access to transportation, 20.3%. Assistants needed to stay in home. We asked several questions about that. The first one was basically, are you having trouble affording to stay in your home? And that was all respondents. We got 12.2% saying they were having troubles affording to stay in their home. And we asked them, well, what's causing the hardship? It was an open-ended question. They talked about high property taxes, rising rent, increasing cost of living, unemployment or underemployment, and utility bills. We also asked, well, what programs could the township provide to assist you? And that was another open-ended question. And they said assistance paying property tax, mortgage, and rent. Then we asked respondents who said they own their house. If you wanted a question, we asked, do you own or rent your house or have some other arrangement? Of those that own their house, 47.6% are aware of the property tax exemptions available. That's the one. There's a series of questions about transportation. More than 1/4, 26.3% of respondents would use a transportation service provided by Lisle Township within the boundaries of the township, or one or more of the purposes asked about in the survey. And we asked them, would you use it for medical appointments, to get to a church or religious service, groceries, recreation, there was a list. And the one that came up the highest was transportation for medical appointments, 23%. We asked them, are they currently using some type of transportation service such as PACE, Lisle Township, Ride to Page, Uber, Lyft, and 28.3% said they are. 1.8% of those said they're using Ride to Page. next section was on senior services and veteran services. There was a question,
What percentage of the respondents were over 65?
good question, I had that written down, because I knew someone was gonna ask them. Okay, so over 65, was 23.2%.
And was there a way to know if any of them were even aware of the services that existed in the park district programs?
We didn't ask about.
Yeah, I just was curious if they
Yeah.
knew.
Yeah, and I believe 23.2% is around the percentage of the population. I didn't bring the actual American Community Survey results, but it's close to the actual population. So of the respondents 65 years of age or greater, 38.3% would be interested in assistance. To assistance to access programs and services offered by senior service agencies in Lyle Township. 29.7% of those 65.
Would you say that the senior population is a growing population?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. And it's a population not only growing here, but everywhere in the US. And services from I don't want to make this sound, I want this to come out the right way, but providing services to this group is very important. Because it's a growing population and it's gonna get larger. Before it gets less, okay? People always are concerned, and this, I love children, I have 3 of my own, but people are always concerned about services for children. And I tell them, well, only 1/3 of the households, maybe less, 30% in most communities have children. Seniors, I forget what the percentage is now in most communities, but it's pretty, it's almost as high as households with children. If not.
Is this survey quantifying that it is, we're a growing population? Are you able to quantify that?
No, but we could look at the demographics and.
Understood, yeah.
So we could look at the census data and know that that's a growing population.
Mhm.
And that population needs a lot of services.
Thank you. Earlier slide, a lot of the services seem to be about helping them stay in their homes and helping them manage the upkeep of their yards and their homes. Is that what this is confirming? Or were they asking for different types of services?
No, we're talking about different services here. So you have all these senior service agencies in the township that are offering services. So one of the I don't know, you're not. So Age Guide, for example, is a nonprofit organization that helps with senior services. They coordinate with other organizations to provide senior services. No one knows about them. I never heard about them until they called me and said, can you help me with the survey? I mean, but so you have all these agencies out there, nobody knows who to call for what. And how to get services, whether they're even available. I know a lot of seniors that live in my neighborhood, and I said, well, why don't you call Lyle Township if you need medical equipment? And they're like, huh? Yeah, why don't you call DuPage County if you need, I forget, eyeglasses they provide, or some kind of vision service. I mean, there's all these places in the township that have services, and you can be like the one stop where they call and say, hey, I need such and such, can you direct me, can you tell me? And can you help me access them? Because a lot of times there's eligibility requirements for these services. So you can help them with that. That's I think what we're trying to get at here.
Not to put words in there, but you're saying a valuable service would be help to coordinate around existing services that are available to them, rather than necessarily creating new services that parallel or.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of services already available in this community. I think that You don't need to provide additional services, you just have to find out what's out there and kind of be a resource, a referral service, I guess is a good way to put it, and say, you know, you could call so-and-so, here's the number, you know. There's a, you know, you have to have a certain income or something, the eligibility is whatever, so let people know that up front. That's one thing that we've heard quite a bit of in other townships is, you know, I applied for the service and I was denied. And I didn't know up front that I had to have a certain income, or I had to, you know, whatever the eligibility requirement is, you know. So that's something that I think would be very helpful. And you have a fairly large percentage, 38.3%. It's not a small percentage as far as who would be interested in this. And I'm sure there's others that don't even know that they can get these services. And yeah, if they knew, they could just call you and ask. Can you provide information? Why not? Okay, so 29.7% of those respondents similarly would be interested in a township senior health insurance program with trained counselors who could help them with Medicare enrollment or changing a Part D drug plan. Here's another area that people are just totally confused about. And if they could call here and get information, I think that would be an important service as well. 41.8% of all respondents, I spelled respondents wrong, okay. Would like to see more senior programming within the township, whether it be related to socializing, education, or well-being. This was a question that we asked of all respondents, saying, you know, as a resident, how interested, or would you be interested in seeing more senior programming? Again, this might be not something you actually provide, but you can tell, you know, be a referral, this is what's available for other organizations. So, you know, you can do it, or you can provide, it's up to you. Okay. Almost 1/2 of those respondents who are military are interested in veteran services through Lyle Township. I found this very interesting. Is that they need assistance to military veterans and we will help them out. You have a large percentage that.
What percentage of the respondents were military?
I don't have that number. We just said if you are military. No, I think we actually, let me check my question. So, we have to ask them. Are you military? Yes, we did ask it. I did not write that percent down.
Okay.
I can get that. Yeah, we asked them first, and then if they said yes, they would ask the question. Okay, lastly, we asked about communication. It's very interesting. 47.3%. Other respondents said they do not receive information about the township. I do know that you sent a newsletter, because I got it. I actually live in township, coincidentally, but I am unbiased.
You live in an unincorporated area or incorporated?
I did live in an unincorporated area for 10 years before I moved to the incorporated area, I guess. Anyhow, township newsletter. Okay, so if you look, the red bars are how they're currently receiving information, at least that's what they're saying. Are they currently receive information about the township? And then the blue dotted line, which is hard to see, is what is their preferred source of receiving information. So you have a large percentage say they don't get any information, and then you have a 44.1 said they remember getting the township newsletter. 33.6 find out from family, friends, and neighbors, which is not a good way to, that's not how they should be finding out. They should be finding out directly from the township. So it's good that they're talking about the township, I guess. And let's see, township emails, 29.6. Do you actually send emails? Sometimes they get, you know, they confuse things in their mind, but they think you do. The website 27.1, local newspaper 17. Facebook page 11.3. What they really want are emails though, and we hear this every survey we do. Is they want emails directly from the local government organization, which means they actually had to give you their email address. And you have to set up a database, and emails are constantly changing. People stop using them, they get new ones and use that one instead. So it's really messy, but that's how they want to be communicated with. And then the township newsletter, you have 31.4%. So that was a hard copy newsletter, right? Which is expensive. I mean, you can do digital and just put it up on your website, but then you have to communicate that it's there. So. I would say the more ways to communicate, the better. Everyone has their favorite method. Some people like to go up on Facebook every day and check all these different organizations and what's going on, and some people will go up to your website and yeah. So everybody has their favorite methods. Okay, some real research-based conclusions. We try to stick very close to the findings. So I'm not going to make a conclusion that is not shown by the research, but the findings, I'm not going to make any recommendations. You take this information and use it the way you see fit. So I would say most respondents are satisfied with the services provided by Lisle Township. Increased awareness of services by the township is needed. Communicate more. Evaluate methods to communicate with residents. I would look into, other ways to communicate. Local newspapers used to be like the way to communicate. Hardly anybody reads local newspapers now. It's social media. It's electronic newsletters or those types of things. And consider offering some of the additional services identified by the survey respondents.
My question is whether this survey is any different from some survey that you would perform for 708 board.
Is it different? The questions are different. The methodology would be the same. We do quite a few 708 board surveys, mental health board surveys. The questions are very different. But the whole process would be the same.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what were the services, the additional services identified by the survey? Can you call those out, please?
Sure. I think there's a number of different ways of looking at that.
I think it's very positive that overall most respondents are pretty satisfied. That's very exciting to see.
Yes, and those are just those that are aware, meaning that if they said that, they don't know, meaning it was excellent, good, fair, poor, don't know. We did not include the don't knows. So those are people that actually know.
But you know the percentage of respondents for each one of the categories?
We do have those, yes.
So we could get, the percentage of people who.
Yes. I mean, all you have right now is the executive summary. There will be a full report. We're close to finishing it. Sorry, I didn't have it ready in time for today. We just very busy. With big people on vacation, so all kinds of things going on. Unfortunate. So.
How's Lisle Township stack up to the other? Are we doing better, doing worse?
I would say you're about the same. I must say, having worked now with a number of townships, they're all in the same boat, except for one, which everybody tells me we are not. Hanover Township, which is like the
Mecca, the
Yeah.
most amazing township in the
Yes.
state.
yes. But all the other ones are similar to you. You're a town, most people don't even know what a township is. When we first started doing these surveys, even know. The township staff was so concerned, it's like, should we do this? People don't even know that they live in the township. You know, how are we gonna make them, you know, they provide a map, people look at it. We know from our sample that they're in the township. They might not know they're in the township until they look at the map. And then they say, oh, yeah, I live there. So it's unusual, because if I was to do, you know, we do surveys of villages, cities, etc. Everybody knows they live in Lyle. You know, the village of Lyle. When it comes to township, people are not aware. And so part of it is just communicating that they live in the township. But yeah, I would say the majority of townships are in the same boat as you. It's getting the word out. It's kind of, and the survey helps because we sent it to 2,000 households, and 2,000 households now know they live in Lyle Township. You know, we had of the 600 completes, we had about 800 go into the survey. Some of them don't finish; they're not counted. You know.
It's just so interesting because each election cycle, we really do educate people that you are in Lyle Township, right? So it's interesting that they still don't know. And that just goes to show that you can communicate in any number of ways, but people are only gonna hear what they hear.
Right, same, yeah, exactly. And the other thing, same with services. You could communicate about services you provide over and over again, but until somebody needs that service.
True.
And starts looking for it. Yeah, so having that newsletter in their hands and they say, oh gee, I think I just read about something like this, still, you know. And they go back to the newsletter, actually probably is very helpful. Because, yeah, until somebody needs a service and starts looking at what's out there, you know, they do their Google search or whatever, and says, oh, Lyle Township provides this, you know, they're not gonna be aware, care, whatever.
I think it
That's
might
just the
even be-
nature of the beast.
I think it might even be one step further that they're not aware that they're in Lyle Township, but a lot of people think you're talking about the village of Lyle.
Yes.
So it's just, they don't even know.
It's
there is a
very
township.
confusing.
Right.
And, yeah, they could add to residents, I think, that. Does the village provide the service or does the township? provide the
Right.
service?
Right.
Most of the time, they think all the services are through the village.
Well, 77.5 said the township provides good sanitary services, and of course, we don't provide any. Take a credit.
That's interesting.
So one of the questions I had was did you look by chance at other townships, level of service, providing? Like, for example, the difference between us and like service provided, the level of services provided by other service townships?
Yes, I can say that, very similar. The only one that isn't, and like I said, I don't know what's going on, is the tax. The one about tax counseling, property tax counseling, that was lower than I've seen. But everything else is about the same.
Piqued my interest, what about Hanover Township? Why are they so low? What's going on?
I don't know, that's a great question.
I can tell you why.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a trip to Hanover, actually.
I mean, I know that the person that's in charge of the township, James Barr, he's on top of things, but do they have more money? Do they, I don't know.
They are a very similar population, township wise, the numbers, they have a very similar demographics, a very similar tax base. But they decided for 100 and something years to do all the right things with investing their time and efforts in their government, and they are amazing. They have a fabulous senior center, they have a fabulous.
Yeah, I've
general
been there,
assistant.
it's really
It
nice.
is 49 acres.
Now they're looking at funeral services, their latest.
From
I
literally
mean,
cradle
they-
to grave. There is something that Hanover Township does to make
Senior
lives.
housing, they do.
And they've done, we did their strategic plan and they've done it regularly every 2 years since I've been at the center. So that is part of it too, is just reevaluating to make sure you're still doing the things that you said you would do and looking at it. Yeah.
For decades and centuries. We just didn't do that.
So, any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've been a great audience.
Great, yeah, she's done hundreds and hundreds of these, proven, methodology and works with a lot of townships, so I think that's great to have some of the comparison. So we wanted to do one more thing before we take a break, because I know everyone's gonna need to, and also, we're all adults, if you need to get up and take a break at any time, please feel free to scoot through everyone and get there, but we'll take a break here to grab a little something after. I wanted Ally to be able to share a little bit about the stakeholder feedback from the focus group, so that you can kind of see some of the similarities and differences with residents. And then we'll take a little break, we'll come back, and then we want to actually hear from the board and staff about a few things as well. So I'm gonna let her go ahead and share.
Thanks, now, let me figure out this.
Are we okay to turn the air up a little? Is everyone still on?
Cold.
Okay, I know,
Okay,
thank you.
so the focus group that we did,
I have no idea. Would it be hard, easier if we didn't have the screen split if the screen went up? Because the wall is white, right?
oh, yeah. that's
Okay.
really-
So much better.
Awesome, okay. So we did a focus group with the township intergovernmental partners. They're designed, these focus groups, the questions that we ask, and kind of the formats that we use to be highly interactive so that we can really get a lot of good information, robust conversation from them. So we did one focus group, virtually via Zoom in May, so just a couple months ago. We had 13 participants, which is the sweet spot. We like to have at least 12 to 15 people in each focus group, and there were 13 different intergovernmental and civic organizations represented in those participants in the focus group. The questions that we asked the participants in the group. So the same 6 question that we ask every single focus group that we do at the center, plus or minus a couple of maybe words or phrases. So how would you describe the township to a stranger or somebody who doesn't live or work in the area, kind of like we did as our first exercise tonight? We asked them, if you left the area, the township boundaries, right, and didn't return for 10 to 15 years, what programs or services do you think you might see the township offering, or what do you hope you might see them offering? 3, what do you like best about the township? What are the greatest strengths and the assets or opportunities? Next, can you identify areas or topics in need of attention or improvement? So like, what are the greatest weaknesses or challenges at the township? Then we asked them, kind of working as a funnel, to identify their top priorities, 2 to 3 top priorities for the township over the next 3 to 5 years. So kind of as a part of this strategic planning process, what would you like to see come out of it, right? And then the very last question that we asked them to get to the very tip of that funnel is, if you could change or initiate one key item or one goal for Lisle Township, what would it be and why, right? We asked them to give us a little bit more background information about it. So out of that focus group, 3 sort of kind of themes or priorities or focus areas floated to the top, right? So the first one, define the township's mission. Second, identify inefficiencies and fill the gaps. And third, communicate and outreach to the community. So getting a little bit more in depth into those themes, right? I'll give you an example of kind of some of the things we were hearing from the intergovernmental partners. First one, define the township's mission. And I like these themes in this particular instance, right? Because we did it virtually, we only did the one group, that they kind of work in order. So if you want to take these as priority areas, focus areas, or even steps, right? They're suggested steps to get there. First, define the township's mission, okay? So participants said there's a lack of awareness of what the township does, who they are, and the priorities that they have. We kind of heard a little bit about that from Mindy and all of the communication things that people were suggesting. Where can the township make the biggest impact, right? So determine kind of what you're good at, where you provide the best service, and focus on that. Should the township be offering as many services as they do, right? It's the age-old question of the township kind of duplication of services thing. Need to focus on, what they're best at, work with other agencies to supplement, okay? And that's key, right? Because they are your intergovernmental partners. So they do want to work together to kind of accomplish the mission and work, to fill the gaps and to communicate and even outreach. So we'll get there. Eliminate duplication of services, especially in mental health, and increase efficiency.
Ally, we have a question.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Is
yes.
there any agency level of government body that defines what townships are supposed to be doing?
There's a legal framework that defines what townships are supposed to be doing. There's, you know,
It's
statutorily, right?
Yes.
It's literally written in state law.
Mhm.
Okay,
There's a minimum of what you have to do.
Right,
as a
but the
town
things that, yeah, you gotta check some boxes and then you can offer more services if you'd like to, but.
And what we can do. So there's some things that it specifically says that Dylan's law, that basically we can't do what it doesn't say we can. So if it doesn't say we can do it, we can't do it.
As he looks up the state statute. Are there any questions or comments about these here?
And let me say this, and I hate to be in the back, over here, but space wise, this isn't unusual for townships, even Hanover Township, which is held in really high regard. When we did theirs, they struggled with this as well, getting the word out at first, and even though you have a certain mission, it's more than that. Every community has a mission to serve. Well, what is unique about yours, or what are you doing that makes it that way? So I think, I don't want you to feel like in any way that this is necessarily a negative. It's something that everyone's kind of grappling with, and it's a little bit more about that vision and those priorities to get to that. So I think every township struggles a little with that piece.
Have you done this process with other townships in anything?
Yeah, was in DuPage County.
DuPage County, I've heard that you worked with the Lyle Woodridge Fire District.
Townships. How many other townships? in
Townships,
DuPage?
I'm not
To pull up
I'm
all
not
the ones
familiar
that
with
be
the
in
county,
that I
but
can
yeah.
tell you for sure.
borderlines for that, but I know that just recently we worked with Northfield Township. We've worked with
Lyle, you know,
Lyle,
I've done a lot of
Hanover
7 or 8
Township.
boards, we did Lions, we did.
Cal County.
I mean, I can get you a
Board.
list of every single one that we've worked with for sure, but I can't tell you exactly
Mhm.
which ones have been location.
So this was identified in the focus group that we need to focus on what we're best at. And work cooperatively with other agencies to supplement.
Right.
So we don't necessarily have to invent wheels. We need to work to achieve the goal.
Right, so
Fingers
kind of-
crossed.
Right, so, and it gets there kind of at the end of all three themes, if you look at them collectively, kind of as a whole, right? So their first sort of step, if you will, or framework to getting there is defining the mission, and to do that, if we can define the mission, the township's mission, in their opinion, right? This is their words. The next kind of sort of step in the framework, the way that I thought about it as I was writing these, was, okay, so now where are there inefficiencies and where can we fill the gaps, right? And since they're your governmental partners, of course, they're suggesting, let's all work together to do it, right? Let's all do it as kind of a partnership. So this second theme, some of the things that they were saying about inefficiencies and filling the gaps is to create or designate a space for community dining for seniors. So there was a lot of talk about seniors, as you can see at the second bullet point here. They need services for seniors that fall right above the poverty line, so there might be some eligibility gaps, right? Could explore funding opportunities to address that need, such as funding for pickup meals. There's shortage of childcare availability, which is in the next bullet point here. Since they would have predicted an increase in population, right? So if there isn't going to be an increase or an influx of population here within the next 3 to 5, 10, 15 years, are we prepared for that influx and that need of services? So speaking about growing populations, do we have transportation services in place for those who are disabled or elderly? A gap exists for those that are income eligible, right? Or childcare availability for some residents to be able to hold jobs or go to work. Coordinate and collaborate with other agencies in the community to fill the gaps. So this is kind of where that comes in. So they're working toward the collaboration thing. So there's a few agencies listed there that were represented by the intergovernmental group. Central Receiving Center, Language Access Resource Center for Multiple Languages and Accessibility, and the People's Resource Center hosts classes, they suggested.
Thank you. Scope of those three centers, are they Lyle specific or are they a larger geographic area?
For these centers,
Center research.
Look at
Central-
DuPage County, and we're
Right.
already
These are
working
DuPage
with,
County.
Right.
we're
Yeah.
already working with them too.
yep, this came from a list that was developed, and these were all of the RSVPs that came, which was actually, I mean, 13 is pretty good turnout for.
Can I just have one question about this? What percentage of Lyle Township is unincorporated? Because I've heard like people mention the village of Lyle or the city government or the park districts. So many that live in unincorporated areas rely on the township services because it's really all we have. The only other one we have is county. So how much of the people that you surveyed were unincorporated, and also how many residents in Lyle are unincorporated? Because when you talk about like, you can just coordinate, that doesn't actually reach out to everybody in unincorporated areas, because we're not allowed to access some services necessarily.
So that,
Like that a lot of times it falls on the township to provide services for people like myself, because I'm an unincorporated, so.
right, so I guess, I mean, that would be a better question maybe for Diane.
Well, I know that there's 50 miles of road in unincorporated area. I'm pretty sure that when it comes to population, it's about voters, it's about 5,500 and something voters. And so that's round numbers.
And for your question, you're probably referring a little bit more to the survey. So we worked on, this is a focus group that we're discussing, but the survey that Mindy did, she could give you a breakdown of possibly a deeper level of that.
Right, because the township is all that provides services to us, right? We get nothing from either.
Right. So I'll get you a card.
Yeah, good, thank you.
We mail out about 3,600 newsletters twice a year to unincorporated addresses. So that might be a number that you can use. And are these things that were identified for just Lyle Township?
Yes.
So your survey identified that Lyle Township needs to create and design a space for community.
This is the stakeholders.
These were the intergovernmental and civic partners, their focus group. So these were some of the priorities or some of the things that they mentioned as opportunities or challenges that the township could address and sort of work
Could we
together.
find out who were in the focus group?
I could tell you who said the first one, because I've had conversations too, and that's the one thing that really is lacking for senior services, that the senior services senior services don't have a space for. So I did have a question too with the increase in population. So what the stakeholders are forecasting is that there's an increase in population.
Just that if there is one, are we
If-
ready for those?
Okay.
Services? Do we have all of the things in place to account for an increase? In
Okay.
population?
Increases and
Because
changes.
Increases, changes.
changes, I could understand that of the needs and the age groups. But the increase in population, I haven't heard
They also
anybody
mentioned the
suggest
immigrant-
that.
The immigrant population as well, so that is something like, do we have services in place for those that might need, that are the immigrant population, right? So the lack of transportation, childcare availability for those people as well.
Okay.
So in those agencies at the end, don't forget, they're representing DuPage County, as you all noted. So they're seeing all of the different things that are happening across the way and where there could be some collaboration, where there's other last gaps. So while it might not be specific to only Lyle Township, that they mentioned those missing, they also get to see it kind of adjacent. The borders don't stop, necessarily
Right,
either.
right.
So
And
that's
the
a little
need
interesting
doesn't,
as well.
right?
There's an intergovernmental meeting every quarter between for the people in the entities within the village of Lyle. And so these are some of the people that were invited to this meeting, like the library and the village and the park district and then the people that we use with service wise, like the people in Pace at all different levels and the people in the city of Naperville, because we really do work together on a lot of different topics already.
Fire district, park district, public library, from Downers Grove, DuPage Senior Citizens Council, Board of Education. But a good mix.
Benedictine University.
Huh?
Was Benedictine University.
Benedictine, not that I can see on this.
They were definitely invited.
list, but yeah, these were all the RSVP, so there's an even bigger list that we invited, and then these are RSVP and they showed up. Okay. Final theme, which kind of works into this framework that I mentioned, which I might be harping too much on, is the communication and outreach, right? So communicate the defined mission once we can determine it, right? Coordinate and collaborate with other intergovernmental agencies and partners to communicate and advertise township services. So work together to kind of get that word out, right? It doesn't necessarily have to all be on the shoulder of the township to get it out there. Mental health coordination with the mental health board for mental health programs is an example. Township can put out a monthly newsletter, which we all know that you do, or a memo to state agencies to market events, services, and then can collaborate with state agencies. And more communication and education, offering awareness and explanation of services offered. So just generally more awareness of the services that the township offers. One mention was a mobile app. I don't know how feasible that is, but those are popular. Any
They're
questions?
feasible. They're, the Village of Lisle Library just went to one, and the Lisle Woodridge Fire Department has a mobile app. We're actually looking into that.
Oh, nice. See, there we go.
Well, that works out perfect. When we hear these things, they happen, we can take a small amount of.
I was gonna say this.
No, that's good.
And we were very proactive in hiring our Director of Senior Services to make sure that seniors could access the federal and the state and the county programs that very much has been proven that they are looking for to have access.
I think that's why it was so
Good that
important to
we're so
have this,
proactive.
this report, so that we could be really strategic and really understand what the community wants. So that once we know what those needs are, we hire people based on what those needs are.
Yeah.
So this is great to have, thank you.
And this really confirms what we knew, because we were here on the ground hearing those calls coming in, and it really confirms it. So-
That's why we love doing the stakeholder input. It's an important piece at the very beginning of a workshop. So that it can confirm hunches, but it might tell you something new, and let you think it through. So we're happy with the share. And Mindy did a great job. She's very good at kind of sharing all of that. So, well, what we typically do now, I hate making everyone sit for so long. So I want to share one other piece of information, and then we're gonna take a break and grab some food and come back and kind of if you're okay with doing a working session to keep you moving along. If you want to take a break to eat, we can do that as well. We kind of leave it to the group to however they're feeling. The sooner you get through the exercises, the sooner we're done, right? So we go by your gauge. But I did want to share quick. We did do elected official interviews and some administrative interviews with staff. We offer them to everybody. We do this at every session, whether I'm working in a community, a park district, a fire district. If you want me to interview every, chief, assistant chief, I'll do it to get a little more information. So we offer those to everybody. We ask the same questions just to get some ideas. It's never to share anything super specific. For us, it's a lot about context. We want to see what's happening, but it's also to be able to share a few kind of themes we're hearing. And we share this after all of that information, so you can see where there's some overlap, convergence, and things like that. And we're going to do some visioning after dinner. So it's important, I think, to see kind of, here's a snapshot of where you're at, what you're thinking. So we just put a few up there. You can all read. I won't read them to you, but I mean, look at the similarities of the things that you're hearing from stakeholders and that you are hearing from focus groups. You're in a lot of ways on top of what people are wanting and needing, right? You're seeing some of the areas. You're starting to think about what's the future going to be, whether it's a change in population, an increase, you can't predict the future. We all learned that from the pandemic, right? But you can help shape it versus landing at it. And so looking at some of these that we heard throughout the interviews that we did, I think they resonate well with some of the other things that we're hearing. So any questions from the group before we let you take a small break? I know it's a lot of information to take in, a lot of us talking. It won't be like that for the rest of the late afternoon, but we wanted to give you as much information as we could to get you a good start. So, questions? Okay. Well, we're going to be keeping your work up around the room as we finish off the night. So we'll take a break, show you to dinner.
I'll bring it right here. And
Oh, bring it in,
there's enough
okay.
for everyone.
And we'll go from there. So feel free to take a quick break, grab a water. We'll come back in.
Well, you're listening.
How are you? I think my stuff is.
Did you want to mute this or?
Oh, well, Christie, we'll mute this. Okay, well, actually, Christie.
Yes, what? You're gonna mute during dinner?
Oh,
Okay.
we'll just keep this going because I'm not entirely sure that this is gonna be, you might be interested in this, so we'll just leave this.
Sure, don't you want to stay? for
Okay.
it? We actually.
I do have to travel at 6 p.m. So I don't know how many Debbie, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, I was just gonna leave you a message. I'll be on here for however long, well, not however long, until 6 PM and I have to travel.
Okay,
But I was going to text, I don't know, you or Jean, some ideas for strategic plan, I guess. I
okay,
hate missing out on that.
okay, great.
Okay.
I've on here, so we're good.
Right,
Okay,
I'll take both and that'll be fine for OMA, but just kind of randos I'll throw out. Thank you. And my
perfect.
apologies. All right.
So if the sound's on, you're all gonna hear me chomping on barbecue potato chips.
Oh, don't worry. I don't know how it's gonna work out because the sound's not that great.
I know, I'm so sorry. I thought we were told that they wanted smoke. That's what happened in the last.
Oh, no,
meeting.
whatever. No, you texted me, but I'm not sure you meant to text me. You told me, or maybe you did.
Oh, that's a long person. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm
maybe
trying to
not.
navigate my dog.
I'm not
trying to
sure if
do
that was
everything
to
that
me or
was-
not, but that's okay, got it. So you have.
Yeah,
a
I didn't
broken
have time to
foot?
take my dog. I'm trying to tell you to bring my dog.
She said, I don't
Oh,
know,
that's me.
is that to me? But,
I said, I'm on the complex. I'll be parking shortly.
okay, yeah, got
And I
that.
also said, did you seriously get me in? Yeah, I said that.
Okay, that's why I wasn't.
Yes,
sure
I'm
if that was
hobbling on
to
a
me.
broken toe.
So what,
I-
oh, ooh, broken toe.
You have a broken toe?
Girl, look at my butt.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Nothing you can do. I can't stop it after.
Well, I'm sure that it was at least set, but sometimes they can set wrong.
Did John go up there?
I'm not, I wasn't watching.
Did you already have your? You had to grab a can? And then grab a can. I ate it. You did.
I'm so
I
sorry.
didn't bring it.
I was
We
dreaming
have
about
sandwiches,
that.
like a salad, if anybody wishes, and chips and cookies.
You wanna get your dog tomorrow?
Keep bumping into you.
How are you? You're on, right?
What's that?
I work at it, but if it's a city, it's-
I was thinking about that Nashville sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually get to Aurora. That's
Yeah,
a
but
big
I'm not
city.
staying late. I'm not, this is too.
That's why, that's why I'm on huge.
Good thing for us.
I'm not staying late. I get to see my son twice this summer
Follower.
and I have spent enough time.
You need a plate?
I did play, that's what exactly. what I did.
I can tell, see, I.
Yeah, look at that, look at that, you know,
Oh, sorry. Is he done with school?
being, looking for, you know, being.
And I don't get to see him during the day because he'll be running a quarterback camp with his quarterback coach. I haven't had a Dorito in forever. It's kind of fun.
Oh, Cool Ranch are my
Mm.
favorite. I know, there was some in here.
I discovered a new snack that I'm obsessed with. Have you heard of Pop-Ums?
Yes, they're like a fluffy.
It's a potato chip, but it's
Oh, yeah.
shaped like a
Poppable, yep.
Poppable.
Yep.
Sorry,
They're so light.
I
and
am
fluffy.
obsessed with them. They are so good. Do you know what kind of sandwiches over there?
Got ham and turkey. I think there's a veggie, maybe. Roast beef. Yeah.
Does the
Yeah.
turkey, does the turkey look like real turkey or like frosted turkey?
It looks like it came from Costco, so
Realer than.
real. I would say real.
Worse, yeah. I was thinking-
Listen.
Turkey, ham or roast beef.
I stubbed my toe on a broke ass,
Oh, and
but I'm such a badass.
I can't
I'm
figure out
still
myself.
working right on it. No, I'm just kidding.
That's mustard.
I'm taking both. pieces
When your
out.
father's a retired orthopedic surgeon, you don't go to the doctor.
No, you don't.
You handle it. None of this namby-pamby. Thank you. I'll take a cookie while I'm up, though. So I don't have to get up again.
I've got nails.
I cut my leg 2
Oh,
weeks
yeah.
ago, remember? And I had to have it propped in the chair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's like, are you going to the doctor to get stitches? Nah, we're good.
What you be doing? You do so much.
Sorry.
Please don't break my finger.
Do you see oatmeal? Is that oatmeal? I love oatmeal. Perfect.
Oh,
they're protein.
No, that's good. That's good.
How do you serve the salad? Are there
Crazy
charms?
thing is when you mentioned the new butter that everybody knows about. I'm unincorporated and everybody unincorporated.
Kind of sad.
hates our refrigerator all year.
Really?
As soon as we know, when our services. Yeah, you can't find one line. You can't find it.
And then you're fine, they move in, no one's giving you a welcome package telling you where to get it.
And you have to stay on the phone. I live in unincorporated Naperville, Lyle Township, and I have to say it that way. To know which police department, to use, which, it's very right, and correct. And so, you know, and we have no access to the libraries, and our district, and everything like that.
Oh, now you're not part of the districts?
No, not in our area. Now it depends on what type of unincorporated you are. So, but all of my services.
I'm a resident of our part, but you're right, we're not in a small town, so it's a little thing.
Right, no, so, right, so I am not part of my library, I'm not part of my school, I'm part of my school district, so I have my school district, the county, and the township, that's it. I got no areas, anything else unless I buy into it. I have to buy in.
I would tell the same.
You have to buy into the
Yes,
library.
anything you.
Not just like, you're not talking about resident rate, you don't even pay for
I have to buy, I have to take my tax, go to the library and pay a rate based on my taxes to be used in the library. And it's cheaper for me to order the books on Amazon.
Yeah,
Right, so.
yeah.
To buy them, to buy into the library, like for the kids and things like that. And now the park districts is like an a la carte kind of thing, so if I wanna take like, if I wanna take a class, I have.
Might be more than I
You
really
look at like the class fees and it'll say Naperville, it'll be like an extra
am
$25 or $35, $40, depending on what the class.
Jean, I
is.
saved all
So I
the
just
calories
feel like
for that
they're-
sandwich.
Where
Just
I
want you to
live
know I
in
didn't eat
Naperville,
anything today.
there's not enough.
Because I was like,
Meaning
good.
that, like,
The next
your wait
whiskey
list
bar
is
order?
for everything. There's
all the
not enough
time.
stage camps, not enough slot at camps, not enough.
So you could go to other places and pay like an on.
I get the whiskey beverage.
Anyway, and go somewhere that's not full.
Right,
Right.
right, so, right, but, right, so, you know, so when you talk about coordinated services, the problem with coordinating services for those in, you know, unincorporated areas. So most of us, especially.
This is a clean fork. It was just used to serve salad.
It's still, right, and so most of them feel completely separate, like they just, everything is in them. So they aren't even really aware of the township services aside from that.
That's what I told my wife about all the porks I eat on the county.
So, right, so like, they don't have their email. And when you say email, I'm thinking to myself, nobody under 50 wants you to send them an email. I'm just letting you all know that right now, because I'm gonna delete any, unsubscribe to any email you send me.
I know communication is
So
so funny
it's
because there's
like-
so many, so many different ways you
I
don't
like
like
another
it. It's
Correct.
tricky. Yeah,
No,
I might be a
right.
millionaire.
Hey,
to the answer,
I'm
not the-
I'm just gonna eat myself sick.
People, I said
Barry, are
everyone
there
should
any
do.
Cool Ranch
That's
Doritos
why
in
you
that
gotta do
box?
all five. That's all five. Yeah, so.
Cool Ranch?
You almost see
Yeah.
them full time, like that's what you need, a
Ranch.
marketing and communication person, some of the communities, I actually think Hanover Township. People don't have, you know, get out there, kind of, I love that they had to hire a part-time person, how they go with people with the, then what's the media.
Whenever we go to the next whiskey bar, I
It
get
is,
discussed.
it is, it is, but it is really, I mean, social media, that's really not
That's a
expensive.
big deal.
It's free.
I get the El Toro. The El Toro's got habanero places on it.
Give some ammunition. to them.
But really, you can't know anything wrong
For
there.
staffing.
But I
But
can
I'm not
agree, if
here,
the
so
township
I'll
is my email, and I get an email newsletter, I got unsubscribe. Which is crazy, because I actually use
That
it
was
for
a while.
but it's just like, I don't want anyone to hear.
I'm planning
Can't
ahead.
find the ones you need.
No, I'd rather have a text. Like I'd rather do a text blast, to be honest with you, with a link to the newsletter. Like I'd rather.
By the way,
Text me, say here's a link to the newsletter, and then I can read through it like a digital form, yeah, my leisure. on my phone, right? That's it.
Yeah.
No,
There, yeah. Well, that's a
Oh,
good option. for a good communication.
Yeah, text blasting. Because anybody under 50 would want a link to the electronic files. Yeah, no, they're probably quite a little.
Oh, yeah.
Do you, I don't see a.
I have no idea.
So my nephew says, did you snap me? or did you-" Get it on. Isn't that funny?
All right.
Conversations going on 2 or 3 different apps. It's the same version. It's the
You
same
just
version.
don't-
Why,
Yeah.
Hanover Park
I
is
love
like,
how
seems
you
to be the quintessential,
They are.
like township, and I don't, I've heard so much
And
about
I'm
them
determined
from
to
so
play
many
rural
other
every day and
township
every word in
local
my can, because
officials.
I
and I'm
watched that movie.
like,
about
And
Alice.
James is really involved in
Yeah,
the township
with,
academy too, so I mean,
More, right?
I think he's getting.
Julian is more and
You know what I mean? He
Baldwin,
just really is.
and it
involved.
messed me
He's
out.
been for-
Yeah.
He's been
I
there.
did, it made me for years, but she's really old.
Oh, yeah, they're
They're
just,
direct.
I just, and I have to do my.
I mean, I'm planning to do a little video.
I may
of my-
dump turkey in here.
I mean, essentially, like, the other thing is, we look at the different townships around us.
Very good.
So it's the,
I went to-
what?
yeah.
This is.
I haven't done it
what
there.
we do. Even I do the same thing.
We already copied a couple things from
The kids
neighborhood
and I do it.
nonsense. I don't have to borrow
Yeah.
things from the medical library through a friend like illegally.
Not smart, smart enough to do.
Come to ours now.
Oh, I love bar.
Started off.
I mean, I like the
The
idea of
medical
finding different things
library
and doing
device.
them. I
So
mean,
I'm thinking, we're starting to do a little bit. of
Yeah.
that.
I'm gonna ask one of these guys to
You know,
plop one in.
So I
Maybe I'll do
a
it.
bunch of candidates that ran in York.
Will you
Township,
plop in a
and they're
sandwich
the
for
ones
me?
who talked about their work.
Yeah, I see a
Like,
turkey
they
one.
built their
Right there?
entire
Perfect.
platform.
The half or the whole?
Half is good.
Yeah, and I don't know. maybe
Because
someone
I could
will
always go
get
back for
it.
more.
Now,
I don't want his,
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
how did you, because when I interviewed them, they kept going back to this.
I wanted to
Referring to
push
that,
them all.
services that the township provides, they versus what you're.
in-
So just,
Okay.
that's where
They
I'm.
look amazing, but he'll tell you they have not.
Yeah,
been able to
Costco
the same
cookies.
people like that.
Reserved about, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you got another
They
one.
extra things, but I think they're great partnership and just the willingness to
you know.
spend
But how could
some
we
funding on.
from the outside?
I think they've been important. And really, honestly, I'm not very.
You wanna make change, we have
I
to
have a
do it
very
from the
small
inside.
part of it. They just.
But how important is it to
That
see?
day.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
want
we've never had.
Yeah, this is great that you're-
You know.
You guys are part
strategic
of this,
plan.
right?
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
We answered questions, yeah.
Believing you.
Yeah. Not my fault, I didn't do it.
I mean.
Can I put this here? I just want to put this thing and then put it. I cannot do that.
Now, right?
It's like. No, I was like.
See?
Well, the leaves are. I'll find out in about 20 minutes if I start, pulling out, like I have, my heart starts palpitating on the. sugar in that.
I don't know. but part of the focus
I guess I'm ready to stay here for the 30.
is that there's an interference in it.
Gives us a little more space.
Well, honestly,
We purposely put the input things first because we had tried to Diane to
Yeah.
advice about them wanting to be able to hear all
From the
that.
meeting.
The rest is still great, but at least
I got you.
so.
I thought it was just a workshop. I didn't realize it was a full.
Well, we, open meetings. and give a little bit of.
We didn't.
Anything else? Did you see that?
There's no dog here to clean up, right?
Jill? We're gonna have a. Right.
We don't, we always
Get
say it's,
another
that's up to your
list.
team what you do, but
Oh,
we, you know, shoot comment is.
I talked to Ed. I
Oh,
heard
yeah,
that,
as long as
and,
it's,
yeah. Wow. There was a reason.
You want us to pull some?
Yeah, so I did that. and then I praised him.
Yeah, so
I'm just saying, okay, cool, stop, you guys do.
No, I appreciate it,
So
thank you,
I'm just-
yeah. Keep them all.
And then he'll come back.
We're very space poor.
We've done these in small, I mean, it's funny, we've done these at breweries, we've done these at community centers, we've done it at libraries,
But you can't get me in.
it's always something unique, but yeah, tight space can be hard, we've got everybody, you know.
We kept saying, oh, yeah, that's.
Luckily, Alex was tiny, so.
You know.
how do you know, there's always those little kids who have like. Obstinate and work.
But this individual.
How did you break yourself?
I stuck it. I have to. Write it.
Now you-
I can't put it.
So,
shoe on it.
I used to do that all the time in the lab.
So.
Because I would scrub the floor of my head and then I would go back. Oh, right. And then I would go around the corner of the kitchen and go really. I would touch my toe on the corner.
It got me.
So
Gina,
Last
so
year,
let me know if
I
you need
have
a medical.
is because because,
Very bright.
again,
Walker.
same feeling.
Well, my leg feels.
Had,
That cut.
and I do not.
No
know
infection.
how
It feels beautifully.
moving. Yeah.
My dad said I did a really good job. at sending a picture.
How many knee scooters do you guys have now?
I don't have any none now. I loaned them out.
So there's two?
I had two.
You know, it was like completely.
Those are
Yeah.
high
But I always have,
Yeah.
yeah, waiting.
And, he was, oh, well,
Yeah.
because yesterday and stuff, and,
The highest demand thing we have.
So anyway, this is the night I told you don't do it.
But you know what I mean? I want this, but I don't want this, I don't want this, but I want it. I don't want it.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I
So
want it.
my,
I want it, but how do I get
I wonder
But I don't want
if I should be doing this with another.
I don't know what to do with my dirty floor.
I remember when my son was,
You
just put it right
he had
here.
post-concussive syndrome after he had. When he was little. I want oatmeal. Okay, they made him oatmeal.
I don't know.
Why would you make me
I
oatmeal?
don't know why he's saying, well, you can't go. with
Said you wanted
farmers,
oatmeal.
so
I made you oatmeal.
How long did you suffer
I'm
from
like,
that?
well, why? I mean,
Couple of
there is a bit of like, why? You know, what I mean? I'm not really influenced.
I mean, if I'm doing a new.
Recently,
You know?
Well, he couldn't hit his head for 6 months.
Try just to ask him what it'll be.
He had a 5-inch skull fracture.
and there was an electronic version of this on the website or on the website on the social media. I think there is, isn't there?
Yes, there is actually.
Okay. I will do that. I know. He reminds me of the other one. The other. No, what's his name? Robert.
So these sandwiches are what our seniors got at their lunch and learn. They're pretty popular.
They sound like it, yeah, they sound like the same. Okay, but so then I'll go back to the other and get the bid from him, the other.
And it's really small spot. So go ahead. I only drink water. I do love the croissants.
Quite a bit less.
Is
that what you just said, Les?
Then I've never, I think it was the best.
Okay.
croissant I've
Well, we'll
ever
see.
had, Ever. And they go in French cafe, right around the corner from my hotel. It was so good.
Yeah, yeah. So, I just don't
There's a vendor. at the Wild
feel
Farmers Market
completely confident
that
that
does bread. And one of the breads they
I know
use
the whole story
is
of
like a croissant.
yeah.
Oh,
of how they figure it out.
it's
So,
just like a
That's
croissant
okay. I'll just
outside
get
and
another
exterior
bread
on the inside.
and then we'll just see. That's easy enough, right?
Saturday morning.
Saturday mornings.
Okay,
Lyle used to.
I will reach out
We
to
have
him.
the
I'll
best
email
fucking
him
burger, but
tonight.
it's small because of the
And
bills.
maybe I'll just send him the
But then-
appraisal as well, so he could start.
Play how small it is, but then they don't.
Okay, well, very, very good.
We want downtown locations,
Okay,
but they don't come
okay.
down. So we can keep downtown locations. It's like, I'm telling you, we have an obstinate.
Okay.
We had, well, we moved in here.
He was very
we moved out
responsive,
of Lyle,
right, he was very,
in 90. And at
Okay.
that time, I think the sky was a thing, but it was not very just like the carnival kind of.
Very good.
festival atmosphere that it became.
Yep.
It was all.
So,
It was free.
okay, is all yours that you're going?
So I could go.
Are you,
I could go.
are you done or are you still working?
Remember that? Remember when I had this
I was
guy
gonna
that free?
get tickets for us to go to the Naperville Taco of Pro.
It used to be free.
Right.
And then it was only free to allow residents.
Okay, this is gonna be,
And then
like,
it was-
this is probably gonna be like, I think.
And now it's early.
I'll try to get.
And now it's gone. Yeah.
So.
No, I'm wondering if somebody that like. Up in somebody bougie in Naperville.
All right, yeah, I'm not telling you. All right, very, very good. I will let you go.
Just show up and like just go.
Bye.
You look
You
out
can do
the
a
window,
window
it's right there waiting to do it, they're floating by, there was it was here in your community park.
Okay.
It was very cool.
Does anybody want any more?
They landed in the park across the street from you, so.
I'll take a cookie for later.
I'll leave the cookies out.
Oh, I grabbed that before.
Someone can share a cookie with me. I can leave just to in case anyone needs it. Okay. So, yeah, I'm gonna go, yeah.
The salad was very good. Very good. Yeah, Brooke moved down in Naperville.
Mhm.
Another down in,
Mhm.
where's that, Bolingbrook or? Romeo?
No, I think,
in the fall up at the phone, or, State's Fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, it would be better in the fall. You know why? It was so hard. It was 89 degrees and you're eating hot ribs.
No.
And I like them spicy. I'm eating spicy and hot. Remember the one place had the thermonuclear sauce, you had to sign a waiver before you could eat it?
We went to heaven on seven. And we got chicken dish how did the mother? And you had to sign it, go away, no matter what. He would not send the food back as a.
Yeah, seconds are
I
a
missed
good
that
time to
place.
get
That's
it.
what gumbo.
Yeah, Jimmy Bono's did a good.
Who is
with
this?
them.
Is that coming back?
Turkey, roast beef, ham.
But now he has.
He doesn't like.
Juicio's.
Was there
Where is that?
The Juicio's breakfast place.
Okay,
Those are
that's-
Jimmy Bono's.
All right, so that's not bought out
I
by
have a
somebody,
text
right?
out to Mary Ann.
Other three deals by us are gone. You know,
Well, the one on
The newsletter.
the one.
I hate it when I guess.
So are all of them?
What? That's north of 87th. I don't see any.
Let me ask you a casual question, don't drop everything you're doing. I suggested to have a printed version of the newsletter.
Right.
Is that-
has this been sent out?
Yeah, well. I'll interview you about your needs. I'm just trying to find, I mean, a handout at the meeting, I mean, I have one out every day, and I'm not sure.
No, but, recycle.
Summary.
And
No, I don't think a summary would be. I said on the, I wasn't going to take, but I think a two-sided flyer, fancy two-sided flyer of the newsletter, like, just like the most recent before the current meeting.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
just because I
We'll try it
know,
out and see if.
I just know that like a lot of people don't even like look or pay attention, or are they signed up for the newsletter, or are they really aware that they're getting it, or what information?
I'd be happy to text you.
Well, I'm also into text blasts. I would love a link to a text blast in a digital format. I would read it every single month if you send it to me that way.
How about every?
I really want to subscribe to everything.
Okay.
To my email.
Okay.
Like if I could unsubscribe to like every email.
I have a
would.
fire for good stuff.
I
and I
love
don't
it.
even know.
Delete my email account, to be honest with you, because it's such a mess, but no, I'm just saying like.
Can I just text you a link to the newsletter each week going?
No, I mean, I'm
forward?
talking like, I'm not the problem.
Okay.
Right, so I'm not the
Okay.
problem. I
I
know
question
it's
it all that.
Okay.
right, so I'm not the problem.
Okay.
The problem is
You
that
know,
not,
because
the majority of us do not want to be on there.
So this is.
Okay, so I'm not-
So
Outreach to other people.
there's no.
Okay.
Right?
Have a cookie
Yeah,
now.
yeah, I'll share. Um,
You know what?
So that's why I really like what they said. It's not necessarily that we should be. We should be.
My husband doesn't like.
There's a place where we can really tell.
So much of the meeting, sometimes people are sitting there
Drive it.
and they're like
You know?
not interested in.
I did the same thing. I was taking
Or they're not
pictures. I don't know.
interested in
Probably looks
The
very
minutes from
stupid, but-
last week and all the conversation of something, so you're reading the newsletter and that might actually promote our cocktail hour. I'm not gonna promote this. Or this event or that event or this service is available or that service is available.
Yeah.
So it's just a way of promoting the newsletter and like, well, because it'll be there. And then like, you know.
No wonder why they would not.
That's
The big thing about my email.
I'm not saying
I'm like,
100
I can do it.
Okay.
I'm
I
just
can do
saying
it.
something kind of.
Like this, did it.
How big would that be? I don't know, how many pages that would take up or how.
Right, exactly.
Kind of convert that.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
You know, like what is it?
Yeah, I just, thank you. I told you to leave, but then I went in and I.
I live by yes. I was gonna take a picture, but I said, I don't want to just.
I just. I just told them. If
You know,
just
it's like-
And then that's it, we can come down like. And now I'm getting used to it.
About a 2-minute warning, we'll kind of wrap up,
Sure.
have a drink and.
Oh, you mean me move here, so. I
Good.
didn't, oh no, you come on, Mark, go ahead. I don't really need to get there. I'm fine. If I really need to see it, I'll jump on Mark's side.
Oh, I should change my dinner answer. While we wait. I went to the core. People get their dinner.
Yeah.
I heard about newsletter, did that newsletter go, is that the newsletter and did that go out?
Yes.
That's already out?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay, great. And that goes to just the unincorporated areas?
Of course not. We go to every residence in the township. So,
Okay,
incorporated, unincorporated.
It's a
did
mail.
anyone, did you guys get it yet?
I
It's-
have-
It must be low on
wouldn't-
the totem pole,
It wouldn't,
because
it's gonna take, it's gonna take a few days for it to put the postage. But they've had it for a week and I would expect it to hit the mailboxes sometime in the next week.
Oh, exciting. Is this the newsletter of the year that has like all the services on it? Or is this a different one?
Yeah, the
Is this
board
the
cut
annual
the,
letter?
yeah, the
Wasn't
board cut the
supposed
budget
to
to
review
half
it.
of it, so now there's just two.
wasn't that bad? That's not
The
bad.
semi-annual
Maybe
newsletter.
I'm wrong.
Well, it used to only just be one, now there's two, is that what you're saying?
Great.
Or maybe there is two, maybe there is.
There is a lot of years without a whole township newsletter. The highway has always done a newsletter.
Oh, so this is separate than his newsletter.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I guess.
He has his unincorporated newsletter.
Right, that's the newsletter that we get. That's the newsletter that hangs on my refrigerator like the Bible, and if it gets lost, the whole family gets upset. Just so we know, it's the only way we know when they're picking up the leaks and the furniture.
It's a lot of important stuff and we always put it on our refrigerator every single.
I mean, we have neighbors that call each other and say, we lost our letter. What day are they coming?
I don't know if I have a PDF, but I will make
Of what?
sure.
Of the newsletter. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
if I
yeah, yeah.
lose it, it would be nice if I can go to the
Yes.
website and.
Give it-
catch it.
listen to
Yes,
electronic.
good idea, Mark. We'll make sure that happens.
It's electronic.
All right, we ready to get started again?
I assume
Please
that-
feel free
I
to
assume that's trivia.
keep
so.
eating and doing what you will. We'll kind of get started. So this next part is meant to kind of put you into the future, right? So we shared all that stakeholder input. You shared with us a little bit about, you know, how you describe the township to a stranger, very kind of what's happening today, what's that present snapshot. So let me tell you this, you won the lottery. I heard it's really big right now. I need to get my ticket. I think it's $1 billion. And you leave the area.
Oh.
And remember, we asked this similar question to the focus group as well. You leave the area, you go to your happy place, think about it now, a beach, the mountains, wherever you would love to be, but you come back. In 10 to 15 years, now this could be something you want to happen sooner, we know that, but we like you to really try to look to the future. If you came back in 10 years from that vacation, what do you hope you'd see? Or what do you think you'd see in Lyle Township? Little bit different, right? One's a little bit kind of maybe pie in the sky, one's a little bit what you think is actually going to happen. But I want you to really think about what you hope you would see, you think you would see when you come back. And it could be with the organization. It could be with the services provided, possibly even if you're in that big picture, we don't like to limit you, kind of the community that you're serving. So think about it in those ways. If you want to answer it in those 3 ways, that's fine. But what do you hope you see? What do you think you see when you come back? Allie's going to take some notes again. You'll see her kind of writing and we'll just kind of let you share with us what you're thinking.
My absolute first thought was a building on the corner of Main Street and Ogden.
Building on the corner of Main Street and Ogden.
That you do not even have to write that, but.
Okay.
They've been Family
Gas station there, right?
Yeah,
There was a gas station there.
yeah.
There's space.
They've been working on trying to get a building there forever.
It's a general building.
Well,
That's a Village of Lyle.
it's a village of Lyle. It's in our township, but it's a village of Lyle.
Never been approved with the planning and zoning committee.
That's the whole development, not the gas.
We could talk, that, cause yeah, they have a lot of work to do.
Well, we'll go through on the board and then I'm gonna come along and see what the group is like. This is absolutely. So share a little bit with us. What do you hope to see, think you'll see with the township? Kind of based on some of the feedback or just what you've been really thinking about as a trustee or a
For me, I guess it would be services, which have been well coordinated with the surrounding area and better communication between the service providers.
Okay, so better coordinated services.
Clear communication about what is needed and how
Okay.
the need is filled.
So clear communication, not just between partners, but also with the community, kind of seeing what they need and providing that need.
I think if we're strategic
Mhm.
and we know that the growth is happening of our senior population, that within 10 years, we would have done the work that we need to do to get just to a place where we have a building that has facilities, a community room, a place to come and have a meal. To come and play games or bingo or do crafts and activities. Because it's gonna take time to get there, right? So I would say in 10 to 15 years, I would expect that we would have that.
So I heard a couple things too. I heard one, you want to continue to be or be strategic about whatever you're going to do for the township is one thing. And as part of that strategy, it would be building a facility that could be more than just a township building, but a community building and space where people can come and gather and have plenty of space and
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. How about others? What do you hope you see or think you'll see when you come back?
I think it's excellence in the service that we deliver, right? Let's focus on the things that we do well
Mhm.
and really do it well.
Okay. Excellence in service, focusing on those things, as they said, that you do really well, partnering to continue to do other things well.
And understanding what that distinction is.
Okay, I like that
That's the
too.
stay in your lane approach.
Understanding your place, staying in your lane. That's good. Yeah.
I would think that we might see a strategically designed building that allowed for the township to have the senior services that it envisions, the food pantry that it envisions, the needs all under one roof. That way it would be the most efficient for staffing, it would be the most efficient for the community's needs. Yeah,
Okay, so one-stop kind of shop building, and I like that you mentioned staff too, right? One piece of this is doing all you can for your community. To be able to do that, your staff has to have a place to function and do well and have the technology and the things they need to provide the services. Okay.
and not be divided up into, oh, okay, the food pantry over here, and then having twice the administrative staff that would be needed to manage different facilities.
Okay.
That would be strategically problematic.
Yeah, so you mean strategic in your staffing, being
Oh, yeah.
efficient, and your recruitment and retention and even taking a look at what's happening with staffing.
Oh, yeah.
How to fill the needs.
Because, for example, we were thinking about for the food pantry in particular, having a place where people could come in easily without having to, for example, having to go up a different level or easy parking. Making sure that the steps that we're taking are like, the food pantry in particular, that's a lot of weight of food being inputted and outputted. If there wasn't an efficient way to have that weight, either going and coming in, it could be a serious problem. With senior citizens, they're gonna have very specific needs with the facility that they would have. It would be very difficult, for example, to have an entrance that didn't allow for them to have access.
Sure.
For example, so that kind of detailed thinking of, oh, okay, this is where we need this office to be because these are, the services. That's what really we were thinking about from a building perspective. It's so necessary to have that strategic understanding of footprints of
Yeah.
where everybody is walking, using that space.
Yeah, all the different people that you're gonna have using it, from staff to different ages and abilities of people. Yeah, that's very fun.
I also think we need to, whatever we create and whatever we do, we need to stay nimble because the focus, that's what the beauty of township government is that we change with what the needs of the community are. So whatever we do, it it needs to be sustainable. And then I have a whole list from Christy. I think
Sure.
she may have just gotten off.
She said,
She had said, my focus for strategic plan is creating a vision for community outreach with a combination of services that creates a rich community within our township. Cross-training our constituents, seniors assisting with youth services as volunteers, tutors, youth volunteering within the food pantry and senior events. I'll stop for a second. for a catch up.
Yep, so the volunteerism going both ways, having seniors help with
Correct.
youth help with the pantry, service hours, things like that.
Right, and you together. And then she would like to see breakfasts held monthly to socialize and listen to presenters.
For the community, for staff.
I'm not sure,
sure.
but she still
Okay.
is speaking about the seniors. Seniors and youth can, here we go. Seniors and youth can brainstorm and plan fundraisers to assist the Friends of Lisle in food pantry fund contributions. The more we manifest community involvement in the future, the more the word will spread and the township active community will spread, strengthening services that are utilized and needed. Township proud citizens will fortify our governmental organization.
Okay, so the breakfast held monthly would be involved with the seniors and the youth,
That's
right?
what it sounds like,
Yeah, to be
right?
able to share ideas, and I think to her point, that last one's a really good one too, is if you are doing really great things, word will spread a little even more naturally than it would if it's just
Sure.
about the services that are very specific to certain things, so that's a, that positive, telling the stories, through a positive message. Yeah.
Growing, our ability to grow. I mean, one in the things in the past, one of the issues in the past is we didn't use and create standard operating procedures, and we didn't really grow a government in a lot of ways. And so needing to, have the ability to have work and then, develop from that work and then grow that work. So, just like Hanover, didn't start from where they're at, they grew into it.
Right,
Very,
right.
very deliberately, year after year, taking those gains and, developing their systems and their abilities.
Yeah, so as you grow, professionalizing staff, even the board and informing your community about kind of the things that they do. So as you grow, I think not just in population, but in that need and that professionalism, how do you match that? I'm hearing you right. Good. What other visions? Anyone else? Board or
In the
staff?
audience, okay,
Yeah, I just want to kind of give one last pass through, well, then we'll have you share a little bit about what you're doing.
I always think you want to demonstrate success, but I also think you have to show the value, right? Like, here's what your taxes are going, here's the services you delivered, here's how we're doing efficiently. Demonstrating value.
Right.
Yeah.
That comes up a lot too in the townships. People do not understand necessarily. They think, like you said, the county's providing it, and why can't they? And I say, go ask DuPage County if they want to provide the services that the township provides, right? So it's interesting. Go ahead.
So our mission, that was rewritten in 2022 was to improve the lives of the people of Lisle Township. It was really looked at Hanover Township's mission, we evolved ours, into that. And so essentially, how are we doing that? How is that being executed? Because if we've, I think that there's accountability that needs to happen is at what point does a board need to perform whether it's a budget setting, whether it's goal setting or what have you not, to create the steps that would then allow growth and improve services.
So you're talking a little bit about, how do you measure that value that he's talking a little bit? How do you know if you've been successful? What are those priorities? And then how do you measure to share with everyone? We've done what we said we would do, and this is how we can tell you. Okay. So accountability, performance metrics.
Yes.
Setting priorities and kind of following through. Okay. Give you a minute or two. Did you want to share something that you
I
want to say?
did. I'm hoping, because I do plan to grow old in this community. I am hoping to see services at our township actually meet the needs of the residents that they're serving. So for example, the food bank. It's pretty impossible for the working poor to access your food bank. I don't think most of you are aware of this, but the working poor usually works 2 jobs a week. They work Monday through Friday. They cannot come at 5, 6, 7 o'clock when they get off work. So most single mothers, for example, who would maybe utilize the food bank are unable to because they're working 2 jobs and they have to pick up their kids from daycare. So there's no pickup on the weekends. There's only pickup 3 days a week and you have to be here before 4:30. So the working poor doesn't even access your food bank, just so you know. So I'd like to see the services actually targeted to the communities that they serve. And that's not what I'm currently seeing right now. And then in regards to like the senior services, the thing, for people who are the working poor, they might not have a vehicle. The seniors may no longer be able to drive. They may not be able to actually come here for pickup of the food bank. And how is that outreach to those communities who are underserved and desperately in need of food? Food is our biggest issue right now for people who are food insecure and people who are low income. So I think how we target those services to a community that you're serving is really, really important. I know that our food bank throws away food that expires and goes bad. And I think that that's a shame because I know that there are people in our community starving and they can't access your food bank because they don't get off work until 5 or 6 o'clock. So
We'll kind of add in here, we call that for these that we work with them, just trying to reduce the barriers to access.
correct,
in
but
general.
there's specific barriers when you're targeting a specific community with a service that I just think are not necessarily always kind of thought out. And how are you routinely talking to those communities you're trying to serve and finding out what would maybe meet their needs better, right? So I'd like to see that happening more. I think we would see the services utilized more.
Okay.
Because I know they're there,
Yeah.
right? And I certainly don't want them wasted,
Yeah.
so.
Absolutely. Did you have one too?
This is a bit of a stretch, but, a dream in 10 years. The transportation services now offered for seniors. If you're a senior living like in Chicago, there's public transportation. That's less of a critical thing. And we're never going to have a public transportation system like Chicago. But suppose we had the idea, let's expand these ride services for like teens who aren't able to drive yet, and even families where disability is not an issue, but if there were reliable, frequent service, they might not need to buy an additional automobile.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, transportation is definitely one of the access barriers we hear a lot about, and I'm sure the group does too.
Yes.
Yes. Well, let me ask kind of one more question out there for the group, just to give one other shot if you hadn't had a chance to share. Are there any other visions that you hope to see? As you're on the board, as you said, for a couple of years, and you're kind of working through this and you're thinking through this. This could even be kind of that legacy, right? Is there other things you hope to see or think?
I would hope to see a lot more coordination. With the LB.
More coordination? I think that's something. Oh, thank you. Sorry, we're kind of moving them all over. We had the one, I want to write it down. Yep, services are more coordinated.
So one of the things I'd like to see is more services geared toward keeping seniors in their homes in a way that is that allows for a value fulfilled life. So meaning that their transportation or their health needs or what have you not are more met, so that they don't have to feel like they're forced into a situation that they wouldn't prefer to be in. So whether it's because of housing costs or what have you not, but I think that there needs to be more services for seniors to stay as independent as they can.
Okay, independent. Age in place, be able to stay here and be in their homes and
That's what I
get
think.
healthcare and.
That's one of the things we hear the most often is that need.
If you were to piggyback on that,
Yeah.
What your statistics are saying is 28.3% of the seniors are worried about property taxes moving them out of their homes.
Yeah.
So in 10, 15 years, maybe the property taxes wouldn't be so high, and to have those people concerned about losing their house or being able to live in their home.
Just on a rich uncle.
Yeah, in some way, I mean, again, and it's okay, we're gonna talk in this next section about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. And that's a challenge, and it doesn't necessarily mean you can control it or whatever, but it's important to say, you understand that, and I think this is specifically Ally for, not just for everybody, but for older folks, so that they can age in place and stay here, once they don't have the income that allowed them to do it in the first place, and so.
Property taxes are always connected with our education system. And whether that's a national issue of like, okay, how are we funding our education systems? Because it generally depends on your zip code as to what the funding is. So that's a big national, state, local issue that, is
But
there.
isn't seniors aging a national state?
Yes,
initiative?
it really is.
Issues that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So what's the
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to address, but even as an assessor office here, right, even the ability to help them challenge them in the right way, will make sure they're getting their, their amount out that they're supposed to. I mean, there are small things you can do, hopefully, but no, this comes up in every session we do.
Yeah, I want to tail off what I'm just going to say. It sounds like the services should be broader than just 9 to 5, right? I think that so that services that are offered. should-
Right, like the food bank, so for the most majority of people who are food insecure in your community, they don't utilize your food bank because you're closed by the time they get off work, because most of the people that utilize the food bank aren't not working, that's just not true. They're what we call the working poor, right, and those are the ones that we want to target.
Yes,
Excuse me.
there's quite a few pantries that are open in the evenings.
They're in the
on
evenings and on the
weekends.
weekends, and so like a lot of those food pantries
Some
don't have
even
the
deliver.
issue of.
Some even deliver.
No,
And
I'm
we're-
guessing because I don't know, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, right, and some of them even deliver, so when we talk about like that senior van maybe not getting utilized. I know there are seniors in their homes that need food and they can't get to the store anymore, and they can't carry the groceries into their house, they're okay in their own home. But getting that food and the cost of food has risen 5 times. So seniors are really more food insecure than they are about anything else right now. And also, it's just the logistics physically of carrying it into the home. if you will.
It would be nice to know who's doing it, to use it as a model.
I have a couple
Right.
examples I can share.
Meals on Wheels is doing it.
But it's been more recent. The townships recently have, I didn't have the ability, but they've had to adjust for it.
Right, and so, for example, we've been
Sorry.
working through with our director of food pantry as to, okay, for example, I'm the one that gets my significant other and I are the one that gets the food on Sundays. We go to Amazon Fresh and make sure that we, get a few tons of food every weekend. But we're also just figuring out, okay, could we be open on one of the weeknights? Where could we make some changes? But we're really short-staffed any which way.
Mobile
And so
food
without
pantries
any-
has been kind of a new thing where they've been at a location other than here. Saturday, like you said, little extended hours later for third shift people. So there's some ideas. I know a couple of groups that have done it, but it does take extra staffing and extra funding. And so that if it becomes a priority, that's something that the group has to decide it is.
And in the same light, you're also looking for transportation for seniors, after hours too, and weekends.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of need and I think you had one.
Yeah, the other thing I was gonna add, working with the Boy Scouts, we would tend to find a senior who needed their lawn cut, or they needed some yard work done, right? So I think opportunities to partner, whether it be the service groups, whether it be the high school groups, or people that need service hours.
Yeah.
Find opportunities and just broker that.
Well, yeah, because that's a problem. If you are having any challenges with your health, senior or not, and you don't cut your grass, and we've had so much rain. Like, your grass can grow to the unacceptable length just from the rain we had, before you can even have a chance to cut it, then it's still wet, you still can't cut it.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if there was some type of cooperative like that, Wild Teams of Character, the different high schools, try to, yeah.
And we could be the facilitator. of
Right.
that.
I think that- Yeah.
I love hearing all these ideas come together. I hope that I hope your community partners work well with you too on these
They
types of
will,
ideas.
they
So
will,
That's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely need technology to make any of that happen. We
Yeah.
don't have any of that.
Technology. Well, a vision for the future.
I'm not
Technology is
sure
very
if we need
specific.
that.
Yeah, what do you?
Well, we would
Other side of
really
things,
love to
no.
have like a volunteer coordinated program, like needing a software.
I see what you're
Because
saying.
we don't have any software at all for any of those things, but we could have.
It would be
There's
nice
software
to,
that exists, there's
Yeah.
Sign Up Genius,
yeah,
there's lots of different softwares that exist where you can sign up.
let's build up a program and then see where the need goes with it.
Yeah, the volunteering is a really big piece, is getting
Right.
them back. And I love the youth piece of that and the older people that I'd love to learn how to crochet. I'm just gonna give you. examples.
Oh, there's an
Lots to do.
opportunity.
There you go. So see, it doesn't have to be an older person with I'm an older person now. Okay, anyway,
No,
I
yeah.
play cribbage and
I
crochet.
think, what is that called when you connect like the older with younger? You know who's really good at that? Nazareth High School is next door to a senior residence. And they have a cooperative where they partner, with the seniors and,
Sure.
yeah. Like a buddy, a
The
senior buddy.
Key Club is always,
Key Club would
you
be
know,
good.
there's all the groups who are always looking for service hours. A lot of the, the football teams, in the schools, there's a lot.
Yeah, no, I love that one. I think it's great. That's been coming up a lot more too. Yeah.
Donna Croppershaw, I live in Lyle Township. in the village of Woodridge. I would like to see, going back to needs of the aging population. Adult daycare, good adult daycare, that a person who's taking care of their mother and lives in an apartment and has to work has transportation to come and pick up her mother, to bring her to the good adult daycare and back again. And that way she won't have to put her in assisted living, which she can't afford anyway, because that's really expensive. Okay.
That's one of the highest needs.
Thank you.
That the other senior center said that specifically was one of the highest needs, and they were originally asked, yes.
Well, that's something that I want to do with my board. But they don't know that. Yeah, and they left.
My name is Ruby. I'm the receptionist, and a lot of things you guys are saying about the food pantry, bringing up, Ali, is true. I get a lot of calls that the people can't make it here in time. They race here and they run here to try to get the food. And then I get a lot of calls that since we got to see the bus now, can the bus bring somebody here, pick up the, we got the senior bus. Can the bus come and pick up, but right now, we're not allowing it, and I'm hoping in the future.
So you can't take this, if a senior called and said, could you come get me to take me to the food pantry? The answer is no.
We can do that no, we can do that for seniors, but
not for anybody
a
else.
regular person. One girl called and she said, I'm hungry and I need to come to the food pantry, but I can't offer her the bus because she's not a senior. But she can't get the food, but I'm hoping that maybe we can, in the future, we can have a service like that, because then she made me feel bad. She says, well, I'm gonna starve to get, so I can't eat. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
there's nothing worse than seeing somebody who's truly hungry at your doors at 5 o'clock and they can't get the food because they were too late, because they took public transportation that is almost non-existent in DuPage County and they just could not get here.
So some
So
additional
it's just-
transportation option for others that aren't necessarily seniors that already currently.
Right, and so the other option also is that you can have, you can also have volunteers who are willing to also do share rides, right? I don't know how well that would work with the township, but I know other communities and food banks have done that, where volunteers have actually offered to drop off boxes of food to certain specific addresses because they couldn't get to the food pantry. So that's an option as well, but there has to be better access, because currently right now, your access is really not. Right.
And on a side note, we just had a meeting with all the other food pantries. We are the most open township food pantry in the county, to be super clear.
Yeah.
Everybody went through the hours of which we're open. We're the only one open. I mean, everybody, if anybody goes to anyone's food pantry and is hungry, just so we're clear, if we're open, we will give them access to the food pantry.
That's true.
So it's not that
That's
so
true.
even if we're not, it's a Tuesday, we'll still give them access to the food pantry. But I guess my point is that, again, we're the most open of any of the township food pantries.
well, that's good. to know.
Right.
Hours wise.
It's just that the hours that you're open are not available for the working.
But there's other food pantries that are open too.
Right, and you're one of the only food pantries actually in the area that doesn't give away expired or rotten food. So that's also something that a lot of the people in the community have really are thankful about. There's nothing worse than getting a box of food and having most of it be unedible. So, which is really kind of, unfortunately, that is what a lot of churches do. People are really, really, really food insecure right now, so they're taking the expired food. But I know that yours does not, and you have a reputation for that. So I don't want to make it seem like, the public is unappreciative. I just think that even if you did it just one day a week where you were open or available past, from till 7 or one day on the weekend or something.
I think it's good, yeah, we noted expanded hours as a.
Because they will come on that day. They will come at 6 o'clock on that Thursday, on that Wednesday night, or whatever night you make it. They will make it a point to put that on their schedule. I assure you that. So.
No, I think that's good, and it's come up in a lot of them, the expanded hours, the idea of share ride, even Uber, people have been exploring Uber gift cards, things like that, so. I think you can get creative. I think it's important that you kind of shared that with the group. Okay, well, so visioning for the future, I think these are really important to take a look at, not only for hearing from the community and the board, and I think it gives you guys a collective idea of what each one of you is thinking, but also there's a lot of you that shared a similar idea. That's, you know, the check marks and different things here. But I do want to talk a little bit as we move on to the next section about some of those. I don't want to call them necessarily barrier, but when we talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges, let me tell you a couple of things about them. I want to put them up behind you if they're over this way. Not that you don't know what these is, but I think this is important to say. Sometimes you don't get to hear what you do well. I'm guessing that sometimes as a receptionist or others, you hear maybe complaints, maybe different things that should be going on, and you don't always get to hear the strengths. But I know from listening to the group, there are a lot of strengths, and I want to talk about those. You also obviously have what's, you know, you can call them weaknesses, you can call them challenges. There's different ways to look at those. And we need to talk about those as well. But I want to talk about some of those opportunities and then challenges. And in the end here, the gentleman was sharing about the state of Illinois and property taxes. So what's important to think about is that it can be something that's external and it can still be okay to get up here, right? It's important to understand that just because you don't control it doesn't mean it's not a challenge, doesn't mean it's not an opportunity. So when we walk through these next couple of sessions, I want you to think about things that you see as strengths and weaknesses. Maybe they're internal, maybe they're not. And then things you see as opportunities and challenges that if you overcame, maybe when I come back in 2 years, it's a strength. Maybe something that right now has been challenging you has changed. And that's always the hope that when you identify these, it's okay that one of you thinks it's a strength now and one of you might think it's a weakness. We want to get it up there anyway. And so the only other thing I want to say about it before we do a little exercise is it might fall into all the categories when we start to talk about this. And the example we usually give is technology. You could give communication, you could give staffing. It can be all of those. And we're going to talk about each one of those as well. So I want to do something that just gives you each about 5 minutes, 10 minutes to reflect on your own. This is something kind of different. Sometimes we do this in small group. Sometimes we do it individually, and we're going to come back to the larger group. But I just want you to have a little bit of time of reflection on this. So this is just a half worksheet. Like I said, this is kind of an adaptation of a larger one we do. With this size of a group, sometimes we like to just do it a little smaller. But this is what I want you to think about. As you start to think about strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunity challenges, I want you to answer these 2 questions for me. They're kind of prompts, call them Mad Libs, whatever you want to call them. But as a township, if you were to write down, we want to, you know, as a board, as a township, blank, but blank. And then as you think about that second question, blank will have the biggest impact on the township in the coming 2 to 3 years. It's a little bit of a warm up because we're going to do a full SWOT. But I just want you to think about it for a couple minutes as a group. There's no wrong answer, no right answer. What would be some of the ways we might fill this in? Then we're going to share with the large group. I want to hear everyone's answers after they had a few minutes to think about it. So. Certainly helpful. Just like that is true.
It's starting on August 1st.
She heard. Yeah. It won't take 5 years, like.
No, I'm just saying, it's been a bone of contention for 5.
But you guys have been doing so many things well when it comes to recycling. We recycle oil for energy, for heat.
No, I carry all my plastic bottles home. You guys throw them all in the garbage. I carry all my plastic bottles and cans from these meetings home.
Well, I thought Diane took them from us.
Well, she might take them from you and bring them to her own garbage, but that still is not a recycling.
There's a recycling. I just
And then
put
she
mine in
takes it
there.
home and she recycles it now, but it's for the office. It's not like public.
What is Lyle? Does the village not recycle? I'm confused.
Yeah,
Sure.
a lot of garbage waste management.
Oh, you're saying
Picks
the
up.
unincorporated. I see what you're saying.
No. In our unincorporated, they do too. Yay. No, I'm talking about like just an expanded one, right? Like most townships have an expanded recycling program for the things that our waste management companies won't pick up.
I see.
Number 1, and number 2, a blue bin out in that lobby. So when I leave this meeting, I can throw my can in there instead of bringing it home.
Gotcha.
My husband's like, what is all this stuff in the car? I'm like. It's in my car right now as we speak, every meeting.
Very good.
I cannot throw plastic or cans in the garbage, especially when.
No, we can't.
They're worth
I come
money.
from Iowa, so it was a deposit there. That was different when I came
Yeah.
here.
Michigan too. Michigan does that.
My father-in-law, when he
Yeah.
comes to stay with us, he keeps a couple of them, he takes them back there and gets his
You-
nickel.
They do
I'm
print out
saying
the
these
weird,
now.
apparently in Michigan.
That's
if
my
you don't-
problem.
If it wasn't exotic, Michigan, you can't
This is
recycle.
That's not
during the
true.
conversation.
My husband buys, is, okay, they don't sell, you gotta buy the right kind of beer.
Okay.
Of the right kind of soda. So if, for example, you can't recycle Old Style in Michigan because they don't sell Old Style in Michigan, but they do sell Miller. So if you have Miller cans and you buy them here, and you take them there, the machines take them. I can give it to you next week. I go every weekend.
Well, obviously.
I know people. It's a bone of contention between my husband and my mom.
Hey.
She's like, you
Don't
can't
get
be
in the
doing
middle of
this,
a-
it's not right. My husband's like, I don't keep track of which cans I bought in Michigan and which cans I bought in Illinois.
Mother-in-laws are fun.
But if the state sells it in aluminum form, they will take it back. And at this point, the can is actually worth almost as much as the deposit now. So Michigan's making money off of this because they charge the deposit and then they also make money off the aluminum. It's quite brilliant, actually, when you think about it.
We should do that.
I know, it's really quite brilliant. Well, I mean, because they make the deposit, right? They charge the deposit on the front end when you buy the case at Myers. And then when you return it, they take all those cans and then per scrap metal and the cost of aluminum keeps rising. So in all honesty, states like in, but there's, this goes on between Michigan and Indiana a lot, when they buy it in Indiana or something.
Get that.
For sure, I don't know.
I don't wanna do any-
All right.
I think that we need to fill out the questionnaire.
Okay. So we're going to, I want to go
It's
back.
changed, all right.
I want to go
Yeah,
around
I
and
don't
just
think-
do the first question first for the whole group, and then we'll come around to the second one. I just kind of want to get everyone's answer up here. I want to hear them talk about it a little bit, but this is going to be talking about sort of those the things you would really love to do, a little bit of that priority, and then kind of what's holding you back, maybe if there is something, and then we'll get on to what'll have the biggest impact. So volunteer for me if you want to share. We want to blank, but blank.
Well, I will just go first, and it's just repeating what we've been saying already, because I'm not clever, like I said. For me personally, I just want to make sure that we continue to provide services to the residents, but we want to make sure we are fiscally responsible and not duplicating services or wasting taxpayer funds.
Okay.
That we're coordinating with.
I think
Because we have
that's clever.
we are so a wealth of services in the communities around us.
You want to provide the services, the but, which might be kind of the obstacle, is that you need to be able to do that in a fiscally responsible way.
Yes.
That's efficient, not duplicative as much as possible,
Yes.
and is engaging with your partners.
Yes.
Okay.
So you said it nicer.
I just said what you
Yeah,
said.
you actually said it well.
Your words. Thank you for going first. I saw a hand over here too.
We want to grow our ability to deliver services, but we can't agree to our direction.
Okay. Grow the ability to provide the services, but need to decide on a direction, and having a little bit of a stop block so far. Okay. Right, so when we do these in groups, it's really interesting. You come back into the room and you often see some of the same answers as well. So that's good. You're staring at me in the eyes, which means.
Which I
it's
should
good.
stop
know you
doing
need to
that.
stop.
I have that habit. So mine is, we want to help as many needy people as possible and create more services. But we need to make sure that we are doing the fundamentals well to be able to grow smartly.
So helping the community, again, with this kind of creating the services, especially those most in need. But focusing on some of the fundamentals in order to make sure you have that ability. Any specific, and with the term fundamental, just to make sure we capture it.
Yeah, some of the fundamentals, I think, you even alluded to before of what our government, is supposed to be focused on.
Okay.
And, we have a lot of internal issues that we need to get straight to be able to provide those services properly. And so we need to get that all in order. So when we do have more services, we're running them properly and smartly, and so they can sustain.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if we're not doing that properly.
So first providing that mandatory statutory items you're supposed to, and then be able to focus on that.
And then to add to that, it would be to, run the township like a business, and those needs have to be met as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got, township, we want to deliver impactful services for residents. But the township is trying too hard to do too many things to come handle the township.
Too fast.
Too fast.
No, it wasn't too
Far
fast.
too
It was just making sure.
Touche.
about it.
Touche.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so much. I can't wait to see James at our next meeting.
Touche.
I don't mean to laugh. Deliver impactful services, we're trying to do too much. Prioritize. One word.
There you
that
go.
says it all.
It's hard to stay focused. That's very good. Slow growth.
Well, we're all walk on.
Right.
Glacial growth.
Like
Glacial.
perennials.
I like
Sleep,
it.
sleep, right?
Trustee Geis, how about you? What you hope to see, or I'm sorry, you want to, but why?
I think we all have the same vision
Mhm.
for what needs to happen and what we want to do for the community. But I think that, I'll echo, but add to what Supervisor Hewitt said, is that we're not. I want to clarify, because I think we all have the same goal, so I guess it's not echoing. We all have the same goal, but we all have sort of a different approach and a pace to achieve that goal, right? So, and just like you said, crawl, walk, run, like, we want to do so many things so fast. And I think that that's where we stumble and we make mistakes, right? So, in the last 2 years, I think it was so great that you mentioned, like, let's also remember all the great things we've done.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot in 2 years. And we have a lot more we can do in the next 2 years, but we have to be really intentional about it. It needs to make sense. So we all have the same thing common, but we have to be intentional about it. We have to be strategic about it. We can't just push through this like a bull in a china shop.
So you want to be intentional and
Carefully
strategic
crafted.
about your growth,
Carefully crafted.
but people want to see change at such a fast pace that it's causing some.
Well, it's our society.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, if you don't respond to an email in 2 hours, I sent you an email, right? I mean, that's just kind of, we've grown accustomed to expecting more, faster, better, faster, more, faster, better. And in that process, we're just not being intentional, right?
Okay.
So I want to be really, there's nobody at this table that disagrees about what our goals are,
Mhm.
right? You'll hear it, it's the same thing. There's nothing that anybody is saying in this audience that we're not saying,
Mhm.
right? It's just that, what's the end is the same,
Right.
but how we get there, we're having a difference of opinion. And that is causing a lot of waste of time,
Mhm.
energy, and resources.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I don't think we're in agreement on goals either, because we were in agreement there. Is thoroughly.
No, we agree, because every meeting we say, we all want the same things. It's
But
just
we
that,
don't.
so for example, so you understand, I'll give you an example. So we did not want to hire a director of senior services until we got this report back. And so we knew what our goals were going to be from this report.
Mhm.
But the person was hired. So now it's frustrating. That's just an example. She's lovely, talented, gifted woman, brings a wealth of information and experience, but we just keep putting things in place before we even know what we're doing. The cart before the horse, so to speak, because it's what everybody wants. We want it, well, you want senior services, but people can't really articulate what that is. And then even in your report, most of the things they mention are things we're doing,
Mhm.
right? That we've already implemented in the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's our challenge, right? So we all want to get to the same place. I'm talking, we all want to get to the same place, right?
Yeah.
We all want to get to the same place. See, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Hold on, can I ask in the audience, so.
That's not what you can.
Hold on one second, I'm sorry.
Okay.
When I'm trying to listen, it's really hard for me to write. I apologize. I don't have great hearing. So we'll get to some comments if we get to it, but I want to hear trustee guys.
So the real answer that I didn't want to say out loud, I'm just gonna say it now, because now I didn't want to, because I wanted to focus on.
Sure.
But we want to serve the community effectively and efficiently, but our political biases create so much angst and trigger so much unnecessary discord
Okay.
that we can't move forward.
Mhm.
And so we're forgetting why we're here. We're not here to push a Democratic agenda or Republican agenda. We are here, we're not here to be activists. We're gonna be servants, and a servant's heart isn't pointed, it's not screaming, it's not punitive, it's not disrespectful. We're here to be servants of this community, and I don't care what box you check when you go in a polling booth. Our responsibility is to the people, not to our political alliances. And that is something that we get stuck on a little bit. It's kind of triggered in the back of our minds. And that's why sometimes the rooms get stacked the way they do for our meetings.
Yeah.
So I think we can do great things if we can let go of that. If we would stop being a dog on a bone with this belief that because some person votes this way or this way, I can't agree with them, or I'm working against one side or the other if I do agree with one side or the other.
And when we get into the full SWOT analysis information, sorry, it will be, I want to talk about that. It's okay to have some of the, I want to hear the true discussions too about the political environment. So, keep hold of those thoughts. I want to put those up here as well. I just want to get around the table and then I want to dive in a little bit deeper. You don't want to share? Okay. All right, how about Diane? Did we get your full one up here?
We got Diane's, yeah, girl services, with the direction and the approach.
Okay.
So it's also learning how to decide. I mean, basically, we've really not come to an agreement on virtually much of anything in the last 6-7 months. And so making sure that if we decide, for example, we want to do a transportation program, that we then execute it. Like, and frankly, senior services, one of the things that we did extremely well was we knew that those, we've heard for years that the people wanted help with getting access to state, national, and federal benefits that they didn't understand. And so we did hire a director of senior services because the need was so apparently obvious when we were literally being asked repeatedly, almost on a daily basis for it. So, I mean, there's a difference between, feeling like you need the data to tell you what you already know, because you're here, we're here living it, and we know these communities. So,
Community outreach was really important. in finding those answers,
debate
though.
between all of
We
this,
didn't do that.
making sure that we fully did that, trustee guys.
We don't even know what the overlaps are with the surrounding communities
Yes, we
because
do.
we. Okay.
So it's okay. I understand that and you guys have had a lot of these discussions and it can definitely get heated when you have different opinions. And that's kind of what this is trying to get at a little bit when we do the full SWOT with the things that you want to do. And then what are some of those challenges, and you're unearthing what they are and you're sharing them with us, and that's okay too. We just want to do it in a structured way to make sure we get what we need to help you get to hopefully a point where you can kind of move ahead as well. So I want to make sure, did I get everyone that shared what they would want to do?
I would put that we really want to work as a cohesive group.
Okay.
But but it's just a but. We have posturing standing in the way.
And I think the group shared that.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this then, if you're thinking about it kind of on the flip side, and maybe you're already answering it for me, and that's okay too. If you had to say blank will have the biggest impact on the next 2 to 3 years, let's hear what that would be for the group.
Teamwork and letting go of bias.
Yeah.
Okay.
The need for senior services.
Okay. Addressing the need for senior services will have the biggest impact. Okay. And I heard 2 on teamwork and being on bias. I have a check mark for that one. Is that a third?
Yeah, absolutely, on teamwork, because we could get everything else done.
Sure.
We could do it all.
Good. Our trustee Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about township services, I mean, they're addressing food insecurities. Important. It's top of mind topic. But from a dynamic point of view, I do agree on the teamwork aspect.
Okay.
But from township services, 2 things. Transportation is important, which overlaps with senior services, and then addressing food insecurity.
Yeah.
And just from a budgetary perspective, we spent $0 on food insecurity. Where
That's
some townships spent
untrue.
100. Actually,
We spent $250,000 on the budget
for
and
food
$7,000
going
and I'll
towards
stop.
the food pantry. So to be super clear, we do not spend a dime on that. Addison Township, which is about half of our size, spends $100,000.
So Diane, we've talked about this. You told me not to budget for food because the food comes from friends of Lyle and from donations. I asked you and you said do
True.
not budget for food. Then we do spend $40,000. We give direct food subsidies to people in our GA budget. So please don't be spreading that message that we did not grant you the aspect for food. We asked, you said we cannot buy from Northern Illinois Food Bank. It has to be 501(c)(3).
Yes.
Do not put it in the budget.
And several times we put in and we
Because
asked for
that's-
West Suburban Food Pantry to have $44,000 in order to work with the virtual food pantry. We've been going on. over this
With
for
no
weeks.
details, so
Well-
you really do need to stop. This is exactly what we're saying. We do need
is
to
the
work
problem.
as a team. We can get all this done. We have, one of our focuses, of course, is to work for our general assistants, and that we just, we want to do better and better for that and help more people with that. So to me, that's the biggest impact too, is that is one of the things that is helping our neediest. And I think that it should be, because it's directed to us, that needs to be our focus first.
The general.
General assistance,
Because that's required.
correct. And let's do that well. We're doing highway well, there's always room for improvement. We're doing assessing well, there's always room for improvement. But we're doing those functions, and those are two of the three. The third is general assistance, and that is the biggest impact, right?
Trustee Robinson, can I ask you, in terms of, the addressing the food insecurities, you were even talking about level, like things that aren't the transportation part of that, the after hours things, the care that they could be doing, going out into the community if it became necessary. So exploring other ways of doing it, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we were presented with two options. Status quo, partner with West Suburban Food Bank. We haven't explored any other options. We don't know what other people are doing. We could be doing other things internally.
So that might, a big impact too is, and I know Diane's mentioned talking to a few of them as well, but exploring options, what other townships are doing really well.
And we have explored them at depth, in depth.
Yeah.
And given both the board and DuPage County a whole lot of lists of things that we need. Both with numbers and exact prices, and what we had agreed is that the board would only approve of things if we got a grant for them. For the food insecurity needs, and we're very short on our personnel, so any of the things that would require personnel, we don't have, we just got a significant cut in our personnel.
I would, that's
Oh.
actually.
Who did you hire? Okay, so you took 164,000.
Wait, listen, you did not take 164,000 out of the budget. You wanted to increase the budget from 475 that agreed to 638. Stop.
So
It's
I gave it all.
I know. I'm so sorry.
And then you all. decided
You
to
cut it. Nobody cut anything.
Yes, you
We
did.
gave you more.
Can
We
we,
gave you
can we
more.
do,
The audience needs to be quiet, honestly.
This is our workshop.
Okay. You know what? So can we do something I think might actually kind of help even this discussion a little bit more?
Thank you.
So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm coming back. So this was what I kind of mentioned to you would be a little bit of a warm up to the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and challenges. So what I want to do is something called rapid fire. This is going to allow you to share with us a lot of the things you're talking about right now. We're not necessarily going to dive into everything because we don't have the time, but I want to hear from each of you. I'll give you an example, even this personnel discussion. It is going to fall as a strength in some ways and a weakness and a challenge in some ways. We want to get it up on a list, and I want to do it in a way that allows everybody to share with us. If we dive into deeper, we might ask a question. That is completely okay. But I'm hearing a lot of things and I want to make sure we don't not capture them. So let me tell you how it's going to go. Allie's going to take strengths and weaknesses. I'm going to take opportunities and challenges. We're just going to have you share with us what it is and where it falls. If it falls somewhere else, if you want to do a little explanation, we will do that as well. But we're just going to kind of keep things moving along. It's okay if it falls on all of the lists. Just give us a little explanation of why you think that way. But we want to hear the township as an organization, the township as a service provider, and things like that. Where do they fall? And it's okay if you've said it. We just want to get them up here on this list, but we're going to do a little rapid fire style to make sure we capture everything that you're saying. So let us know. We're just shouting them out. What are some things? Where do they fall? Strengths, weaknesses,
A
opportunities.
strength is we have a very caring staff for the most part. We
Okay.
really do.
A strength is that we have a good team here with
Okay.
the 4 trustees,
Okay,
and we do bipartisan.
okay.
Almost $5 million in surplus.
Strength? Does that represent an opportunity
opportunity.
or a challenge?
So.
Okay.
Challenge
Is
would
it a
be,
challenge to decide what to do?
I was
with
gonna
this?
say, a challenge
I
is
took it out of
the
your mouth.
communication,
Yeah.
Well, no, challenge is what to do with it.
right, well,
What to do with the.
and
budget.
communicating to the, right,
Communicating how to, yeah.
yeah. Yes,
And the surplus is so much that if it's not decided in the next 2 months, we can.
that's not true either.
So our biggest challenge is differentiating between truth and
Yes.
opinion.
Honesty is our
Yes.
biggest
So the
challenge.
attorney keeps telling us that.
No,
That's not true.
No,
So communication, internal, external is a challenge, right? We've kind of talked a little bit about that as well. What are some other challenges, opportunities? Weaknesses isn't my favorite word, but there might be some things. that fall
Well,
in there.
the challenge is the levy funds. And staff benefit. There's nothing that funds programs. There is nothing in the levy that funds programs. So we do need grant income. We do need effective grant development pipeline.
Mhm. So that's an opportunity as well, right? To explore grant funding and find, but it's a challenge, okay?
And other revenues,
Mhm.
other sources of revenue, which we've never done.
have we applied for the grants? Where are we at with our funds? Nowhere.
That's not true.
Well, let her answer the question. Where are we at with that?
Okay, on Thursday, we went through with DuPage County and they gave us a list of pieces that they're willing to work with us on. And so we're giving them all the information that they're looking to hear from. So it's happening. Just to be super clear, that was done in August of 2022. And then I went back to the board and asked for more money. So that is a thing that I created.
Other opportunities, challenges, strengths.
We can't agree on much of anything.
Challenge, weak love, yeah, fine, one challenge.
It's also a weakness. That we can't agree on anything is also a weakness.
And you mentioned a little bit, even with the community here, there's some contention about kind of what's going on. I'm sure that causes stress on going both ways for the community.
What's mixed information that gets released?
Okay.
A lot of
So then
disinformation.
We're spending a lot of time trying to
A lot of
undo
distortion of fact.
misinformation,
Mhm.
which is exhausting. And of course, you know, we can't respond to public comment, so we can't correct anything in public comment, so there's really no opportunity, and that to me has got to be even more frustrating than the public commenters. Like they're taking their time to come here and they think they're speaking on things that they're concerned about, but we can't speak to it, so we can't even answer the question.
Oh, you can't share back. You're saying after public comment, you can't comment on it to share back. Okay.
So that, what that does is that just fuels more conflict, more angst, more conflict, more distrust, more breakdown in communication. So it's just this, it's like a, what's the word? Cycle, snowball effect. It's just like whatever you call it.
Yeah, and look around the room as much as you guys can see. If there's something on here that you see as a strength, opportunity, challenge, weakness.
I think
Probably
that the
growing, like actually having accountability and actually making steps forward, because we'll have several steps forward and then we'll cut off funding for our transportation program, for example, right when we're about to begin. And so it's very difficult when it's clear that the need for transportation is there.
So a challenge is that you having a clear path forward is just a challenge in
Oh,
general.
yeah.
I think the group, do you feel like you have a clear path forward?
No.
Or is that a challenge? For whatever reason, is it, I guess, it's a challenge. How about your food pantry? I've heard you talk a little bit about it. Where's it fall on the list? Is it a strength? Is it are there opportunities there?
I know that we heard that from stakeholders, that food pantry is a strength for sure.
Okay. Opportunity, what's an opportunity? You talked a little bit about food insecurity. Where does that, with the food pantry, what would you see as an opportunity maybe for that?
Well, I think talking to things like broadening the hours,
Yeah.
broadening access. And
I heard you say Amazon Fresh is
Yes.
is a partner in that. Is that,
They're wonderful. We have a lot of really fabulous partners working with Northern Illinois Food Bank, that then they coordinate all of the different partner organizations, so the Amazon, the Whole Foods, the Jewels, all of the partnerships, and we do that 6 days a week.
I think a weakness is that we have a very new staff. We have high turnover.
And an opportunity or a strength is that we have a lot of very dedicated staff that are looking to do things that they've never done before and excel well at them.
We're just gonna go back.
As well as
I'm
having
done.
experienced
I'm
staff
done.
that are extremely
I'm
good
done.
at executing them.
We need counseling. We don't need a strategic.
This is a
plan.
campaign. This is not a workshop,
I
it's a
know.
campaign, but that's okay.
what are some other opportunities that I mean, think about even why you wanted to run to be as part of the township board. What were some of these reasonings for, like, what are some of the opportunities you see in the future, in the coming months?
I would say an opportunity to help the new staff focus on core services.
Okay.
Right, like, we're really not sure what all this, there have been 3 administrative people hired out of 4 hires in the last year. And are they really delivering services to township residents?
And description changes have happened so that nobody knows what they're doing.
So some organizational things, it sounds like, and I think that happens in a lot of the groups that we're in, is whether it's new people coming in or just changes, is there an organizational structure in place, manuals? I think we've talked a little bit about that in our interviews. Is that something that opportunity, kind of a challenge right now?
Yeah,
what I'm hearing?
too many changes, it creates issues.
What else? What are some other strengths?
Sorry,
Okay, to pat yourself on the back.
well, we'll get there, we'll get there. I was gonna say weaknesses, we're too dependent on outside consulting services.
Yes, far too.
Can you give an example outside of NIU, of course? I'm just kidding, but is there a
Human resources, accounting and legal.
And the reason why.
Because
we
of our
needed-
lack of retention.
The reason why is because we never grew those ever in the past, and so in order to make up for past underdevelopment in all of those places, we had to professionalize with professional HR consultants, professional accountants, professional legal.
Because
we have
98% of our
decades
staff is
issues.
fit under her supervision.
So in some ways, you're having the legal, accounting, HR,
It's our workshop
consulting.
this evening.
It's
We can't leave. You can.
Some people obviously have consultants in these areas and some do have them in-house. In my, what I'm hearing a little bit is there needs to be an evaluation of whether it's gonna be in-house or not. Is that right?
We didn't have any of those professionals in-house. And so we needed to learn and to make sure that we took the professionals that, because we didn't ever have an HR in-house, we never had as much, we had years of accounting issues that needed to be rectified. And so when you have those type of issues, you need to go to the professionals to professionally organize yourself out of some of those issues.
So that's kind of what's going on right now. And so is it possible that an exploration of if it would still need to be in-house or consulting is in the future?
All of this has been cut. I mean, all of the HR, legal, accountants, all of that has been cut in the last budget.
This isn't this is not a discussion.
Any other
Sorry,
strength?
you're gonna have to help us get up on topic here because we're gonna lose our participants.
Gotcha. Any other strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or challenges for the township services and the things that you provide? You've hit all of them.
I think if this goes any longer, this meeting will end, so I think we should move on to whatever the next step is, just my recommendation.
Okay. There's only one other thing that we were gonna be kind of discussing. We just want to make sure you had a chance to share where you thought these stuff in this. The last piece that we typically do as part of the workshop is, after walking through all of the stakeholder input, sharing some of these ideas that you have, is to discuss some of your short-term and long-term goals that you have. And so what I'd suggest, kind of given what's going on in the discussion, I think it's still really important to get to these. You know, we want to hear from each of you what they are, is that you kind of do it a little bit individually, and then I want to share back with the group. I want to just hear that type of discussion. So what we do is we just do these by term, right? And I shorten these for this group, I'll be honest with you, right? We do this a lot with any elected board because I think it's important to give you some low hanging fruit goals and some goals that are a little longer term. So the short term, we do it by 2 categories, 1 to 2 year, right? If you're doing a budget, you still have to get it in it, so that 1 year time frame is good. And then a 3 to 5 year time frame. Again, that may or may not be that 3 or might be that 5 year. This is what I want to say to you as you think about these as this last piece. I don't care if it's an action item or an objective or a SMART goal or how anybody wants to measure it. I'm only going to probably get another half an hour with this group, I'm guessing. So I want to make sure that we spend that time. If it's important to you, I want to get it up on this list. It does not matter if you consider it an objective or a goal or an action item, right? So of all the things we've talked about today, of all the things that you just have on your mind, I'd like you to spend some time. Again, you can take a little break here if you want to. If you want to keep pushing through, I know everyone wants to kind of get on with the rest of their night as well. I'd like you to write down on your own paper. I have some paper here for you if you want to write it on a sticky note. I'd like you to share with us, you know, your 2 to 3 top kind of short-term goals that you've really just had in mind, and your top 2 to 3 long-term goals that you have for this group, for the township in general and the community. And then I'd like to just kind of go around and share with them and have a final discussion about what this looks like. So think about this for your goals for me as you're doing this stuff. It can possibly be an organizational goal if that is a priority to you. It can be a service goal if that's a priority to you. If you work in the township, you know, whatever that goal could look like, that's important as well. So I just want to hear, what do you really want to do in the next 1 to 2 years that you have together? What do you want to do in that longer term or that sort of legacy goal that you would like to leave? So spend a few minutes, please take a break if you need to, grab water, and we'll kind of organize this out of the way and let you just spend a little time thinking about it. How many days do you use it?
I'm sorry, that's. Like breaks.
Finally charge. I try to really decide. So.
You're right.
This could be in 2 pages. This is. Still on.
No, I think
Okay.
she's gone.
She had to leave at 6.
Okay, I heard you share the info, but I.
Yes, yes.
We don't know what's going on.
We've ignored her. Could we check if there's, or you could tell, is there anybody else online?
Nobody's on. It's recording.
The exercises that trustee McGovern missed out on, maybe we could shoot them to her in an email and she could respond to you directly.
Yeah, yeah. And, after this too, I can kind of put together a little worksheet too, in case there's other things that, she wants to share, or there was one other missing maybe? No, we have, okay.
Because she may have totally different ideas than we would.
Yeah, yeah. No, we absolutely. Lyle does a big festival, don't they?
He used to.
They used to.
I came and saw Blake Shelton one time at Lyle when I first moved here 15 years ago.
Marie
It was so
Osmond.
good. You
We
did?
saw Marie
Okay.
Osmond, right? Strutting across that stage in
Oh,
community
that's
party.
I know she got my brother, or I mean the whole family.
Okay.
Actually, I know her from though, well, besides like the Weight Watchers commercials, the brother was on like a show.
Oh, yeah.
Not the, not the show
Donnie?
they were all on, but there was like another one.
Oh, wait, can you like something?
Was there?
They had their own
He did.
variety show.
Oh, maybe that was it. The two of them.
You are so not
hosted
old enough
something.
to be watching seventies variety
No,
TV.
my grandpa used to have.
Oh.
No, that came out. When we were younger. No, it was my favorite. He had Nick at Night and all that, right? And I
No, not Donny Osmond. He's
But that
he's
whole,
older
like,
than I am, and I'm in my sixties.
Really? Well, I was a night owl, so I watched a lot of like.
It's not
Mr.
considered
Magic.
Nick at Night had a whole rerun.
I know.
There was a whole,
I would
they did
say
the Brady
I'm
Bunch, they did the Partridge Family, they
Yeah,
did
you're
Donnie,
younger than I am.
Cher, all of it.
Good old school
That's 10
values.
years younger.
Nick at Night
Oh,
had a whole
sure.
thing
I'll
on
be
it from
54.
the 70s.
I'm glad we can all agree that Nick and Night is amazing.
Catch up, I'm a grandma.
Okay.
Catch up.
My husband wants a dozen out of each boys, right? That's his plan for the second floor of the house.
Yeah, I know, we gotta
Oh,
get.
you're
better ones
sitting
than
next to
NIU.
your rebels.
I'm not gonna rush anyone. If we still need a few more minutes, we're good. I just know you guys kind of run out of ideas, so we can get to it. Okay. Do you mind if we, basically Ally and I can just take some notes? We may even ask to collectors if you don't mind, if we need some more detail, but I just want to get up here some of the short term. I'll let Ally kind of take long term, and then if we have some discussion or anything's missing, we'll make sure we get it up there. Oh, you
You could read my writing.
Oh, look at us go. I was gonna make you read it too.
Sorry.
You can read
Oh,
it.
we all
Or you
read
type it
it.
up. Well, I was gonna share it as a group. Okay.
I'll share.
That's not me.
My handwriting's
Too
not
neat.
great.
Oh, keep going.
Unlike your lovely penmanship.
You actually have big writing.
That's great. I didn't know it.
Mine is terrible.
I could keep going. I'm
Usually when you're writing on a board like at that angle, it's not straight. Yours lines, I trust, those are the things I noticed. They're like perfect.
I've had a lot of practice with you.
I actually only hired her. I made her do a writing
go
test.
up.
And then that's how I got her. Okay, so, yeah, go ahead.
The short-term goal, identify the gaps in the area services and be efficient and effective in addressing those gaps. And I would call specifically what we talked about, G&A, senior services, and food insecurity.
Okay. I heard GA, food insecurity, and
Seniors.
thank you.
Are you gonna do check marks if it's the?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we can, and then you can add anything else you want. Other short term, you
I'll
can,
go-
yeah, go ahead.
Making sure employees or staff are supported and are able to provide the services they were hired to do.
And read the last part to me, just make sure I got that.
Are
And supply the services that they were hired.
Okay,
they are able to provide the services they were hired to do.
thank you. Good. Okay. Just gonna go around, let each share one, and if you agree, then we'll come back around again.
I'm actually check mark on
Check
both
mark.
of them.
Okay.
You're,
We sometimes do these in small groups too, because there's a lot of.
Yeah. and I just use the word respected, but it's for the employees, so
Okay.
it's just saying supported, respected.
I would check mark both of them.
Okay.
For us to have a board that operates cohesively and with integrity. To have improved and clear communications. On the board, between the board and the community and board and staff.
Are we going into the governance? Because,
I'm gonna let everyone share one short term, and then we'll come back around and grab
Okay.
the next round. So I have board operates peacefully, clear communication between board and staff, and then board and community as well. Did I miss a?
Between the board, between board and staff.
Yep.
And between board and community.
Yep.
Sorry.
Nope, absolutely.
You got it.
I'm a shorthander.
You got it.
I know my,
Okay,
sorry.
I've got old eyes.
If I write terrible, I told
I'm a
you.
grandmother, what can I
Yeah.
say?
I have a transcriber, so it's, okay, sorry, but that doesn't help you. John? Diane, you have a short term one to share?
Yeah, work with the board and decennial committee to develop goals that the current board can really be. Now,
And these is one of those. All right, round two. We got some other short terms that aren't on here. I think I heard. Debbie, did you have one?
yeah, this is not, it's just have politics not play a role in our township governance.
Okay.
Get our township back on track financially, structurally, and with cohesiveness that has already been mentioned.
Mhm.
And then the other one was reclaim the food pantry to be the beloved service it's been for a very long time. And that I could stop there.
No, I'm writing that.
Can we get them in the meeting room? So we're not disturbing our meeting.
So food pantry is a beloved service that it has always been or becomes.
No, it's always been a beloved service, and by our food pantry guests and regulars. They are calling and saying it's not. So just return our, short term is return our food pantry to the beloved community service that it truly is, has always been.
And it sounded like I heard meeting the community needs and the changing community needs. I mean, throughout we've been hearing.
Yeah, we have to be able to do that, right?
Sure.
All right, other short term before I let Ally get back to writing well.
embrace the cultural, demographic, and local changes that are happening. Expand our services, diversify and improve our revenues and savings.
Or the other. Down. Expand services. Did you read the last part?
Diversify and improve our revenues and savings.
Diversify the revenues.
And improve the revenue.
Thank you, my lord. Improve revenues.
Amazing.
No, I haven't. And savings. Okay, go ahead. Any other short-term goals that's on your list that you want to make sure?
Move Lao Township to become more sustainable environmentally and helping the community by recycling effort. Work on a SIP township for the township and in the process move towards 100% digitalization.
Digitize, is that what I was hearing?
Yeah.
SOP plan?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's hear some long-term goals. We'll come back if there's other short-term we want to make sure make the list as well.
Long-term, I have strengthening the services and programs that the township already offers and expand them when the need arises. And to keep the township in the public eye.
In a good way.
Yes.
So making the township aware of services, a little bit back to the communication piece. And I like that earlier, that tell the positive story, and if you keep it in that way, I think it was trustee Hewitt then, or I mean,
McGovern.
yes, trustee McGovern, thank you, that shared that. Something long term.
I would say that we have a facilities plan.
Okay. So that's long term, so you see it as a 3 to 5 year?
Yeah, I like that plan.
Sure, yeah, no, absolutely,
I wouldn't know.
yeah.
Focus on improving our ability to improve, the quality of lives of the senior citizens through improving the services in the
Other long term.
Develop a culture that is reflective of our diverse community in how we, I mean, it really goes back to having a board that is clear in communication and integrity. But if we don't set that standard, and then this becomes the norm, it's just gonna be complete chaos. So we have a choice. So that when we hand this baton, because not everybody's sitting there gonna hand it on, right? You know, that we're doing it, that we're leaving it in good hands, you know? It's because it's interesting, the previous, none of this, you know, in the previous administration, you know, all the things people are demanding and wanting, they weren't coming to the table a few years ago, right? That has been generated by some of the chaos that's been created. So we need to figure out how to manage that so that as we move forward, so that each board that comes after us isn't dealing with such contention. We have we have an opportunity to shape the culture.
It is hard with the elected boards. I mean, they know that they often change over and things change quickly, really, for the amount of time to get things done. Go ahead.
And we've had one party rule for literally centuries, and it's been really hard locally to adapt to change as opposed to, you know, just being okay with one party rule.
Which is not true because the last board was split as well.
It was a
It
majority
was-
Republican. So
They function the same, but they
Well,
function. They function.
Yes, and this is
Yeah,
we got
majority
things done,
Democrat.
right?
We got I do have it as a challenge, the political environment and yeah, obviously, I think that is part of that as well. For doing that, but I think the point of this group even is saying, I think all of you are saying that in the long term, or even in the short term, that you do want to hand off whatever becomes the next one, a better township than
Yes.
elected.
Yeah, and I would add, so I would add a long term, we need the township, we need an organizational structure.
Okay.
That supports the services we're trying to deliver.
Yes, everyone's a director with no direct reports. That's one challenge.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, an organizational structure that supports.
The current services, well, the current and future service needs.
I would also say we have competent personnel who are effective in their roles. And we're not gonna get turned up by the next administration.
Right.
Because they're so good.
They really
Right.
are. This township has a stellar staff,
Okay.
stellar.
I think we put that on straight. I wanna make sure.
Yeah, caring staff and dedicated
know
staff.
Yep.
Are effective in their role.
They really are.
or can be with what they're doing, if they're able.
And we would keep the services going when there's a change in administration.
You shouldn't have to change every
Right.
4 years. It did
So-
change 4 years ago, so it shouldn't.
Recruitment and retention of staff has been a challenge. So as a goal,
Yes.
whether short-term or long-term is that, which it's such a big challenge right now in general, honestly, but for a place that maybe doesn't often pay as well, I'm not saying you don't, but government doesn't always. So I know that's a challenge too.
But I don't know, I think our previous teams were here for a number of years.
Mhm.
So I think that we can get there again.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have that, you don't have the continuity of services and you're starting from scratch and rebuilding every 4 years. And that's not best practice for the community.
Yeah, they get very used to the faces and the people that we deal with.
And so, because we, started to, start with accountability, start with reviews this last year, then keep growing them and making sure that we can, make sure that those services keep growing,
Yeah.
those abilities.
And I've heard accountability, that's a big term. I mean, I'm hearing it as a theme. So whether it's accountability of the board to community, whether it's to staff to the board, now I'm even hearing staff to their directors is there has to be a measurable with something to point to, good or bad, right? To show what's going on. So I think accountability, I want to make sure is across the board, not just. Anybody else have one on your list of long-term or short-term, if something, again, there's gonna be some overlap, right? There's some short-term versions within the long-term and anything that you're even working on now, right? That is sort of that low-hanging fruit that is gonna be accomplished or be working on in the next year to 2 years. You just wanna make sure is up here.
Well, transportation program, I think we have a mature transportation program
Okay.
that evolves. Sounds like there's some limitations in what it does right now.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah. So in the short term, we talked a little bit about that, we use different kinds of terms, but even exploring additional transportation options that the township can.
I would just say, mature service that we just introduced.
Okay.
I'm guessing Trustee McGovern would also want to say long-term to expand the tutoring program.
Yeah.
Well, yes, executive meeting services too.
Yes.
Yeah, we can add some of the list that, if you don't mind, I'll take that list when we take a
Yeah,
few
no
to make sure
problem.
I capture her thoughts and we can reach back out to her too, give her an opportunity to share, so.
Well, I was tailing off that suggestion. I mean, we really do not offer any kind of new services right now. So I don't know if that's something that we do want to think of as longer.
Youth services. So long-term exploring whether or not this is the right group or partnering with someone's
Partnering,
important, right? Because if it's a need, it's a need. But it might not
And
be you that
to that,
does it.
be the ultimate resource for our community. So all these, just what was said.
Ultimately, I
about,
like that.
yeah,
Because we don't have to be the one necessarily doing it. We can be collaborating.
Yeah.
towards the future.
but we could be
Helping
that
find that
call,
right
they
next
could be,
one.
yeah,
They know they can call you.
right, and we'll, yeah, we got a guy,
Call it like connector and convener, right, of the
Correct.
group sometimes.
So youth through senior, but not burial services.
but not what,
Burial services.
very, no, let's draw the line.
Not cradle to grave, literally, is what he's saying.
Actually, I mean, township, what is it, graveyards are in township
They
at
are.
Purview.
Actually, yes, so we don't have, yeah, we did. Yes, we did, actually.
Hanover Township has a,
We did, and then we
Yeah,
sold it to
there-
Downers Grove Township. So there is one technically in Lyle Township, but we sold it to Downers Grove in 1987.
Which cemetery is that?
It's on the border of Downers Grove Township. I don't recall the name right off the top of my head.
Oh,
Is it
it's
on
probably
Elmore?
on Elmore.
It's on Elmore.
It's got it, yeah, that's a pretty good size, and they take really good care of that too, because it's right down the block from Christie.
It's right
Couple
off
doors
of
down,
Maple and it's Maple and Belmont. It's 2 blocks.
Oh, yeah, because I've seen it in
West.
art.
Or
Marker.
two blocks.
there?
of Maple and Belmont.
it goes to your point that every township, when they were talking about getting rid of townships, there's that big study, right? What do they do? Every township is so different and the services they provide and not only the level, but the amount is so vastly different. To say, get rid of townships is a ludicrous like discussion in the sense of blanket. you know.
Right,
it's-
right.
There's so many things that they do. Well, that's a good, I
Actually,
like that one. That one
don't
had
think
really
that's
come up.
loud.
Short-term or long-term goals? Good list.
How frequently should these assessments be conducted?
The community health needs assessment or kind of strategic planning or both a little bit. So the community health needs assessment or community needs assessment, depending how you frame it, the health needs assessment is more the frame for doing health departments and others. So they do theirs every between 3 and 5 years, depending if they work with a hospital. And it's sometimes good to get on the same schedule as them because then you're having the same data. You can even share costs. We have a lot of mental health boards that do that. But I would say the 3 to 5 years is a good time frame for the changing in the community to capture data. For us, I mentioned Hanover Township, we're usually there every 2 to 3 years. And it's sort of a touchstone mostly to say, are we doing the right things? Has anything changed? And it helps them stay on track because sometimes it's hard. It gets lost in the transition of boards and other things. We come back to some communities 5 years. Sometimes we do a year check-in. I don't say there's a right answer, but I would say that 2 to 3 year time frame is good to check back in. We also do board training and we do, as you mentioned, I wouldn't call them therapy sessions, but I would call them team building and other things like that. So not necessarily for this group, but just in general, I think it's hard to be on the board sometimes. Sometimes you come in, you have no idea what you're doing or what's expected of you. I always feel bad for new people who come on and don't get onboarding the way they want employees to get onboarding. Sometimes that doesn't happen with new, staff or new board. So that it's something we kind of offer as well, since we're doing this out in the community at all times, but it's never
Like a team conflict resolution?
Yeah, I mean, different thing, not the trust catch or anything like that, but we pull boards together and, and others and kind of talk things through. So it's always an option if that's something that's also needed, but hopefully even just having some of these positive discussions has helped, the group think things through. And I really do. I even think these, a few of these are going to be, I think, really important. And I hope we can kind of help sort these through and get a few more from you as we talk with Trustee McGovern and others. So,
Well, I think the point is very well taken of what you're saying. Pick a handful, 3 that we all agree on and we all want to work together on. So, and then it'll just be the details of that.
So
And
we
if
can
we're
do a-
sincerely working on it,
we can do a prioritization process. That's really simple. We do it with a lot of the groups, especially when you get a long list, right? Because a facilities plan is obviously really important to the group. Transportation and other things are super important to the group and the community. And so you can't work on all of them and you can't put funding towards all of them. So we're very willing to put together a simple online ranking once we get these together and let you do that. It's one more tool for the supervisor and for the group to say, here's what we have as our list that's been important after all this work. Here's 1, 2, and 3, and 4. If we get a big grant, it doesn't mean something can't jump. I heard someone use the term flexibility. If you got a big grant for your food pantry or your building, that may become number 1. Resources affect that sometimes. So we're very willing to put that together. It's a simple online ranking tool that you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in your short term and in your long term. And some of these are going to be a little bit, right? Let's say organizational or structure, to do certain things may become more of an objective or an action item than a full-on goal, and that's okay too. So what we typically do, if I can just share kind of next steps, and then we'll let the group kind of decide, is basically we'll organize these. Now I'm gonna pull that up for me. But basically we just consolidate these. We take a look at them. Allie and I have had the benefit, if you want to call it that, of the long, few months of doing this, of seeing all the survey results, focus group results today, hearing the group, knowing context. So we take all that and we say, is there anything missing on this goal list? We'll put it back to Diane and the group and say, oh, maybe you really do want one focused on X, Y, or Z. So we want to make sure that just because it wasn't necessarily captured in this 20-minute kind of session, if there's something else that's been really kind of poignant in what we're talking about, we make sure we share that with you and kind of share what we're hearing. Then we do an online ranking where you would say, of these short-term goals, what's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and it's an average, just like golf. Hopefully the lower the score, the better. And that just shares with you as a group what you're collectively thinking for these goals. And then we do put it all together. We don't want it to be a nice, we do want it to be a nice report. We don't want it to sit on a shelf. So we just put together, you'll have all the full survey results. So everything that you could possibly want to dig into. Focus group results, everything that happened today, all of these and the rankings. And then you'll have the ability to kind of move forward with those pieces. So we don't end here by any means. I do know it's been a long day and there's a lot kind of going on. I think we made a lot of really great progress on these. So I do want to kind of keep moving forward and helping you guys pull this together. We'll do this kind of as quickly as we can to make sure, you know, you have these to move forward and have all this input together. So I am gonna leave some cards. I'm gonna share with Diane kind of a worksheet that she can share with Trustee McGovern and even others. If you guys think of something, I want you to feel free to reach out and share something that you might have thought of as you're driving home tonight and wanna kind of share with us. So we'll leave some cards. Our info's up there. You can get a hold of us and I don't remember your name, but make sure you reach out if you want me to get Mindy any information for you. I can do that. So that's kind of what we have. I appreciate it. I know there's been a few frustrating moments as well, but I hope the few hours you spent with us feel productive and it went well. And we appreciate all your time and Diane's time of honestly helping to organize this. She's been very, very helpful in sharing a lot of information. So thank you for putting this together and for finding us. You know, we love to help and be in communities and if we help a little bit, it means a lot to us. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you for.
And thank you for getting us out earlier than we've been out in 6 months.
Yes, well, hey, I always know
Saturday.
if I get you out early, as long as we got everything we needed, it's a good night.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
We're usually here till midnight.
Well, I wouldn't have stayed till midnight with you, so I got too long of a drive, right? So, but feel free, we're gonna be here cleaning up, staying after if you have anything else you want to share. So thank you.
I would like to talk to you too.